Commander Xena's mandibles clench as she surveys the devastation through the cracked view screen of the Gorn battlecruiser, Deathbringer. The once mighty Gorn invasion force lies in ruins, scattered across the cosmic battlefield. Thousands of Gorn warships reduced to twisted metal and frozen corpses, drifting in the void. Xena's own vessel, battered and barely functional, limps through the debris field. The Gorn leadership's hubris has led them to this moment. Their superior numbers and advanced weaponry were supposed to guarantee swift victory over the humans. Instead, they find themselves outmatched and outmaneuvered at every turn. Xena feels the weight of impending defeat pressing down on her scaly shoulders. She moves to the communications console, claws hovering over the controls. The distress signal to the Gorn homeworld sits ready to transmit, a final admission of their failure, and a desperate plea for extraction. Before she can send the message, alarms blare across the bridge. "Commander, massive energy signature detected," a junior officer shouts, his voice tinged with fear. Xena snaps her head toward the main display. "Source? Approaching from behind the gas giant, Commander." "Battle stations!" Xena barks, bracing for what she assumes is the final human assault. The energy signature moves into visual range, and Xena's eyes widen in disbelief. An enormous human fleet materializes before them, dwarfing anything they've encountered before. Ships of impossible size and design seem to emerge from nowhere, as if hidden within the fabric of space itself. At the forefront of this armada looms the UNSS Kraken, a colossal dreadnought that makes even the largest Gorn vessels look like toys in comparison. Xena's gaze fixes on the bridge of the human flagship, where a lone figure stands. Admiral Lawrence Sullivan, architect of humanity's secret weapon, surveys the battlefield with grim satisfaction. Decades of planning, of overseeing the development and construction of this hidden fleet, have led to this moment. Humanity's ultimate trump card in interstellar warfare stands revealed. The human ships move into attack formation with practiced precision. Weapon systems charge, targeting the remaining Gorn vessels. Xena watches helplessly as her worst fears become reality. The secret human fleet unleashes a barrage of advanced weaponry, obliterating Gorn ships with terrifying ease. Explosions bloom in silent bursts across the battlefield. Gorn vessels, already damaged from the previous engagement, stand no chance against this onslaught. Xena's crew looks to her, desperation etched on their faces. In a final act of defiance, Xena makes her decision. Emergency warp jump, now! As the Deathbringer prepares to leap into the unknown, Xena knows that all hope for Gorn victory has been lost. Their invasion, once unstoppable, now faces total annihilation. If they survive this jump, they must warn the Gorn Empire of this new human threat. The secret fleet's emergence marks a turning point in the war. Humanity, once thought to be on the brink of defeat, now stands poised to strike back with overwhelming force. As the Deathbringer initiates its desperate escape, Xena realizes that the tides of war have shifted irrevocably. The humans, with their hidden armada, have transformed from prey to predator in an instant. Admiral Sullivan watches the Gorn vessel attempt its escape. A grim smile plays across his weathered features. The trap has been sprung, and the real war is about to begin. The Deathbringer shudders violently as Xena initiates the emergency warp jump. Alarms blare across the bridge, their urgent wails mixing with the groans of stressed metal. The view screen fills with a kaleidoscope of swirling colors as the ship attempts to tear through the fabric of space-time. Xena grips her command chair, mandibles clenched tight. "Status report," she barks over the cacophony. "Warp drive struggling to maintain field integrity, Commander." A panicked officer responds. "Hull damage is compromising." His words are cut short as the ship lurches sickeningly. The swirling vortex on the monitor collapses, replaced by the stark backdrop of normal space. Xena's heart sinks as she realizes their risky move has failed. Emergency lighting bathes the bridge in an eerie red glow as primary systems fail one by one. Xena's mind races, calculating their dire situation. With no means of escape and the human secret fleet bearing down on them, she knows capture is now inevitable. "Initiate emergency data purge," Xena orders, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "Destroy all sensitive information. Prepare for boarding action. As her crew scrambles to carry out her commands, Xena's gaze returns to the view screen. The massive human dreadnought looms ever closer, a predator moving in for the kill. Aboard the UNSS Kraken, Admiral Sullivan studies the crippled Gorn vessel with keen interest. "Hold fire," he commands, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of tactical displays. "Prepare boarding team for immediate deployment." Captain Marcus Steele stands at attention in the Kraken's launch bay, his powered armor humming with impossibly strong energy. A dozen similarly equipped soldiers flank him, each a veteran of countless alien encounters. "Our objective is to secure the Gorn vessel and capture its commander," Steele briefs his team, his voice crisp and authoritative. "Expect heavy resistance. Use of lethal force is authorized, but priority is on preserving Gorn tech and intel. Clear?" A chorus of affirmatives sounds through the team's comms. Steele nods, satisfied. "Mount up. We launch in 60 seconds. The boarding craft detaches from the Kraken with a muffled thump, streaking towards the stricken Gorn ship. As they approach, Steele can see the extent of the damage. Great rents in the hull, flickering energy discharges arcing across its surface. "Deploying breaching charges," Steele announces as they reach the Gorn ship's hull. A series of muted thumps reverberates through the boarding craft, followed by a hiss of escaping atmosphere. "We're in. Move fast. Stay alert." Steele leads the charge into the Gorn vessel, his armor's sensors immediately mapping out their surroundings. The corridors are bathed in the same red emergency lighting as the bridge, casting long shadows that seem to writhe and twist in the gloom. The first signs of resistance come quickly. A group of Gorn soldiers rounds a corner, plasma rifles already raised. Steele reacts instantly, his augmented reflexes allowing him to dodge the first volley of fire. His team responds with precision, their own weapons cutting down the Gorn with ruthless efficiency. "Push forward," Steele orders, stepping over the fallen aliens. "We need to reach the bridge before—" A violent tremor runs through the ship, nearly throwing Steele off his feet. His suit's AI immediately begins analyzing the disturbance. "Captain," the AI's cool voice sounds in his ear, "detecting power fluctuations consistent with self-destruct protocols." Steele curses under his breath. "Understood. How long?" "Estimating less than 10 minutes until critical overload." "Team, double time it to the bridge," Steele barks. "We've got a ticking clock." They encounter sporadic resistance as they push deeper into the ship, but the Gorn defenses are clearly in disarray. Steele leads his team through a maze of corridors, following his suit's constantly updating map towards the bridge. As they approach their target, Steele opens a channel to Admiral Sullivan. "Sir, we've nearly reached the bridge, but the Gorn have initiated self-destruct. Request immediate prep for emergency extraction." Sullivan's voice crackles back, tense but controlled. "Understood, Captain. Do what you can to abort that sequence. If you can't, grab what intel you can and get out. We'll be ready." The team reaches the sealed bridge doors, the last barrier between them and their quarry. Steele can hear muffled sounds of activity from within. Commander Xena is making her final stand. "Breaching charges now," Steele orders. His team moves with practiced efficiency, planting explosives around the door's frame. Inside the bridge, Xena stands tall, her plasma pistol clutched tightly. The self-destruct countdown blinks ominously on a nearby console. She has mere minutes left to deny the humans their prize. The bridge doors explode inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke stride the armored forms of Steele and his team, weapons at the ready. Xena doesn't hesitate. She opens fire, her plasma bolt splashing harmlessly against Steele's advanced armor. The human soldiers return fire, their shots precise and controlled, aimed to disable rather than kill. Steele advances steadily, his attention split between the Gorn commander and the rapidly dwindling self-destruct timer. He knows that every second counts, that the fate of this mission, and perhaps the war itself, hangs in the balance. As plasma fire crisscrosses the bridge and the self-destruct timer ticks inexorably downward, Captain Steele must make a crucial decision. Does he focus on subduing Commander Xena, or does he gamble everything on an attempt to abort the ship's imminent destruction? The next moments will determine not only their immediate survival, but potentially shift the balance of power in the ongoing interstellar conflict. With time running out and tensions at their peak, the confrontation on the bridge of the Deathbringer reaches its climax. Captain Steele's mind raced as he assessed the situation. The self-destruct timer continued its relentless countdown, but a new obstacle presented itself, an advanced energy shield protecting the bridge entrance. "Sir," one of his squad members reported, "standard breaching charges won't work against this." Steele's eyes narrowed as he studied the shimmering barrier. Years of experience with alien tech kicked in, and he noticed a subtle pattern in the shield's energy fluctuations. "The shield's drawing power from the auxiliary systems," Steele realized aloud, "and those systems are already strained." He pointed to specific spots along the corridor. "Target these weak points. We overload the power supply, the shield drops." His team moved with practiced efficiency, placing charges at the designated locations. The ship shuddered around them, a reminder of the ticking clock they faced. "Fire in the hole!" Steele called out. The charges detonated in quick succession, sending shockwaves through the ship's damaged systems. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a cascading series of flickers, the energy shield collapsed. "Move in!" Steele ordered, leading the charge onto the bridge. They burst through the opening to find a scene of controlled chaos. Commander Xena stood at the main console, her clawed hands hovering over the self-destruct controls. Sparks flew from damaged panels, and the acrid smell of burnt circuitry filled the air. Steele didn't hesitate. He activated the specialized EMP device built into his armor. A wave of energy pulsed outward, temporarily disabling the ship's systems, including the self-destruct sequence. Xena's eyes widened in shock as her consoles went dark. With a primal screech, she launched herself at Steele, all pretense of strategy abandoned in favor of raw, desperate strength. The Gorn commander's natural armor and powerful limbs slammed into Steele with bone-jarring force. His powered suit absorbed much of the impact, but he still felt the air driven from his lungs. "Secure the bridge," Steele managed to gasp out as he grappled with Xena. "Access that computer core before systems reboot." His team sprang into action, subduing the remaining Gorn crew and working to interface with the alien technology. Steele focused on the immediate threat, the enraged Xena, whose claws scraped and sparked against his armor. Steele's combat training took over. He used Xena's momentum against her, redirecting her furious assault. His armor's enhanced strength allowed him to match the Gorn's power, turning their battle into a deadly dance of strikes and counters. "Stand down, Commander," Steele grunted, deflecting another of Xena's attacks. "It's over." Xena's only response was a guttural snarl as she redoubled her efforts. Steele realized diplomacy wasn't an option. He feinted left, then drove his armored fist into a weak point in Xena's natural plating. The Gorn commander staggered, momentarily stunned. Seizing the opportunity, Steele executed a series of rapid strikes, targeting joints and pressure points. Xena's movements became sluggish, her attacks losing their earlier ferocity. With a final, calculated maneuver, Steele pinned the Gorn commander to the deck. "Restraints," he called out. One of his team members tossed him a set of reinforced cuffs, designed to hold even the strongest alien species. As Xena was secured, Steele turned his attention to the rest of the bridge. His soldiers had the situation well in hand, with the remaining Gorn crew subdued and human techs already plugged into the ship's systems. "Status report," Steele demanded. "Self-destruct mechanism is offline, sir," one of the techs responded. "We're working on stabilizing other critical systems now." Steele nodded, then opened a channel to Admiral Sullivan. "Bridge secured, Admiral. We have Commander Xena in custody and are disabling the self-destruct. Request additional support for intel gathering and ship stabilization." Sullivan's voice crackled back, a note of satisfaction evident even through the static. "Well done, Captain. Support teams are en route. Secure everything you can. This is a gold mine." As if to underline the Admiral's words, one of Steele's team called out, "Sir, we've accessed their navigational data. We're seeing what looks like fleet movements, supply lines. This could be big." Steele felt a surge of anticipation. This single captured ship could turn the tide of the war, but he pushed the thought aside, focusing on the immediate situation. "Sweep the ship," he ordered his team. "I want every deck secured. Every piece of intel cataloged. Move fast. We don't know how long we have before the Gorn realize what's happened here. As his soldiers moved out, Steele turned back to the captive Xena. The Gorn commander glared at him with a mixture of hatred and grudging respect. "Your war is lost," Steele stated simply. Xena's mandibles clicked in what might have been a laugh. "You've won a battle, human, but you have no idea what you've started." Before Steele could respond, his comms crackled to life. "Captain, we've got incoming. Looks like the Admiral's support teams." Steele acknowledged the report, his mind already racing with the possibilities and dangers that lay ahead. As human forces swarmed the captured Gorn vessel, he knew that the real challenge was just beginning. As human forces swarmed the captured Gorn vessel, he knew that the real challenge was just starting. "Captain Steele," a tech called out, her voice tinged with urgency, "you need to see this." Steele strode over to the console, where a holographic display flickered to life. His eyes widened as he took in the stream of data flowing across the screen. "Is this verified?" he asked, his voice taut with terrifying excitement. The tech nodded. "Triple-checked, sir. It's genuine." Steele activated his comlink. "Admiral Sullivan, we've hit the jackpot. Requesting immediate data extraction teams and additional security. This intel is game-changing." Sullivan's response was instant. "On their way, Captain. Secure everything you can. I want every byte of data from that ship." Over the next several hours, the captured Gorn battlecruiser became a hive of activity. Human technicians swarmed through its corridors, interfacing with alien systems and downloading terabytes of information. Steele coordinated the efforts, his mind racing with the implications of what they'd discovered. As the last of the data was secured, Steele received a priority transmission from the Admiral. "Report to the Kraken immediately, Captain. We need to discuss our findings." Aboard the UNSS Kraken, Steele found himself in a crowded war room. Admiral Sullivan stood at the head of a large holographic display, his face grim. "Gentlemen," Sullivan began, "what we've uncovered on the Deathbringer changes everything." He gestured, and the display came to life, showing a massive spherical structure. "This is Project Worldbreaker, a Gorn superweapon capable of destroying entire star systems." A murmur of shock rippled through the assembled officers. Steele felt a chill run down his spine as he absorbed the implications. "Our intel suggests it's in the final stages of construction," Sullivan continued. "We're looking at an extinction-level threat not just to us, but to every species in this sector of the galaxy." The room erupted into heated debate. Voices rose as officers argued over the best course of action. "We should strike now," Colonel Hawkins insisted, smacking his fist on the table. "Hit their homeworld before they can react." Captain Chen shook her head. "That's too risky. We need a surgical strike on the Worldbreaker facility itself." Steele listened to the arguments, his mind working through the possibilities. Finally, he spoke up. "Admiral, I propose a covert operation. A small team to infiltrate and sabotage the Worldbreaker, while our main fleet positions for a larger assault." Sullivan nodded thoughtfully. "It's risky, but it could work. We'll need every advantage we can get." He turned to an aide. "Bring in the Gorn commander. Let's see if she's willing to talk." Minutes later, a restrained Commander Xena was led into the room. Her eyes darted around, taking in the tense atmosphere. Steele stepped forward. "Commander, you've seen what we've discovered. You know what's at stake. Help us, and you can prevent the needless destruction of countless lives, including your own people's." Xena's mandibles clicked as she considered his words. For a long moment, she was silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, she began to speak. "The Worldbreaker is an abomination," she hissed. "Our leaders have become desperate, willing to destroy everything in their path. I will help you, human, but not for your sake, for the future of my own kind." With Xena's cooperation, the plan began to take shape. Steele found himself tasked with assembling an elite team for the covert mission. He pored over personnel files, selecting operatives with the skills needed for this unprecedented task. One name stood out, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, a brilliant xenotechnologist with an unparalleled understanding of Gorn language and systems. Steele added her to the roster without hesitation. As preparations for Operation Thunderstrike accelerated, the captured Gorn technology proved invaluable. Human engineers worked tirelessly to integrate alien systems into their own ships, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Steele watched as his newly assembled team trained, mastering the use of hybridized human-Gorn equipment. The stakes couldn't be higher. The fate of entire worlds rested on their shoulders. In his quarters, Steele studied the holographic plans of the Worldbreaker facility, committing every detail to memory. The mission ahead would push them to their limits, testing every skill and strategy they possessed. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Lieutenant Chen entered, her face set with tenacity. "Captain," she said, "I've finished analyzing the Gorn communication protocols. I think I've found a way to bypass their security systems undetected." Steele nodded, impressed. "Excellent work, Lieutenant. This could be the edge we need." As they discussed the technical details, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Steele's comm crackled to life with Admiral Sullivan's urgent voice. "All hands to battle stations. We've detected a massive Gorn fleet on an intercept course. They know we have the Deathbringer, and they're coming to take it back." Steele and Chen exchanged grim looks. The timetable for Operation Thunderstrike had just been drastically accelerated. As they raced to the bridge, Steele knew that the next few hours would determine the fate of the war, and possibly the entire galaxy. Galaxy. Steele's mind raced with the enormity of the situation as he and Chen hurried to the bridge. The UNSS Kraken's command center was a flurry of activity. Officers barked orders as tactical displays lit up with the approaching Gorn fleet. "Status report," Steele demanded as he strode onto the bridge. Admiral Sullivan turned to face him, his expression grim. "Gorn battle group, at least 30 ships strong, bearing down on our position. ETA 15 minutes. Steele's face hardened. "We're out of time. We need to launch Operation Thunderstrike now." Sullivan nodded. "Agreed. Get your team to the launch bay. We'll provide cover fire." As alarms blared throughout the ship, Steele and Chen raced to gather their team. In the launch bay, they found the rest of the strike force already assembled. Sergeant Reyes, the demolitions expert, Dr. Takahashi, xenobiologist, Lieutenant Kowalski, combat specialist, and Ensign Garcia, communications officer. "Change of plans," Steele announced as they boarded the modified Gorn shuttle. "We're launching now. The Gorn fleet is inbound, and we need to use the chaos as cover." The team strapped in as Steele took the pilot's seat. The shuttle's engines hummed to life, a blend of human and Gorn technology creating an eerie, alien sound. "Stealth systems online," Chen reported from the co-pilot's chair. "Holographic camouflage active." The launch bay doors opened, revealing the vast expanse of space. In the distance, flashes of weapons fire illuminated the darkness as the human fleet engaged the approaching Gorn ships. Steele guided the shuttle out of the bay, its outline shimmering and fading as the camouflage system took full effect. They slipped past the battle lines, the shuttle's hybrid engines allowing them to outmaneuver the lumbering capital ships. As they cleared the combat zone, Steele activated the shuttle's long-range scanners. "Setting course for Gorn space. Everyone, activate your disguises." One by one, the team members activated their holographic projectors. Steele watched as his own hands seemed to transform, becoming the scaled, clawed appendages of a Gorn. "Remember," he cautioned, "these disguises are good, but they won't hold up to close scrutiny. Once we're in Gorn territory, we need to minimize contact." The journey into Gorn space was tense, each team member acutely aware of the dangers that surrounded them. As they approached the outer defense perimeter, a massive structure loomed before them. "What is that?" Reyes asked, leaning forward to peer out the view screen. Chen's fingers flew over the sensor controls. It's a battle station. Massive. Nothing like this was in our intel." Steele studied the structure, his mind racing. This station could change everything. "Chen, can you tap into their systems?" The lieutenant nodded, already connecting her equipment to the shuttle's communication array. "I'll try to access their network. If I can breach their firewalls, we might be able to gather crucial intelligence." As Chen worked, Steele maneuvered the shuttle closer to the station, using debris and comm relays as cover. Minutes ticked by, the tension in the cabin growing with each passing moment. Suddenly, Chen's console lit up. "I'm in. Downloading data now." Steele leaned over her shoulder, his eyes widening as he saw the information streaming across the screen. They're amassing a fleet near their homeworld. This could be the key to ending the war. He opened a secure channel to the UNSS Kraken. "Admiral Sullivan, this is Steele. We've uncovered critical intel. The Gorn are gathering a massive fleet near their homeworld. Transmitting data now." Sullivan's voice crackled through the comm. "Received, Captain. This changes everything. We'll adjust our strategy accordingly. Continue with your primary mission. Godspeed." As Chen disconnected from the battle station's systems, an alarm blared on the shuttle's control panel. Steele's head snapped up, his eyes locking onto the radar display. "Gorn patrol ship, closing fast," he announced. "They must have detected our intrusion." The team exchanged tense glances. Discovery now could doom not just their mission, but potentially all of humanity. Steele's mind raced through their options. Fighting was out of the question. Even with their advanced hybrid technology, they were no match for a fully armed Gorn patrol ship. Running would only draw more attention. An idea struck him. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. "Chen, can you use our systems to mimic a malfunctioning Gorn vessel?" he asked. The lieutenant nodded, her fingers already dancing across the controls. "On it, Captain." Steele opened a channel to the approaching patrol ship, his voice distorted to sound like a Gorn's guttural tones. "This is transport vessel GTS 589. We are experiencing critical system failures. Request immediate assistance." For a moment, there was only silence. Then a gruff voice responded. "Transport GTS 589. Maintain your current position. We are moving to assist." As the patrol ship drew closer, Steele could see the tension etched on his team's faces. If their ruse was discovered, they would have nowhere to run. The patrol ship loomed larger in their view screen, its sensors probing their shuttle. Suddenly, an alert flashed on Chen's console. "Captain," she whispered urgently, "they're detecting inconsistencies in our energy signature. They're going to realize we're not Gorn any second now." Steele's mind raced. They were out of options. He turned to his team, his expression resolute. "Prepare for combat," he ordered. "We're taking that ship." In a flurry of motion, the team readied their weapons. As the patrol ship extended its docking clamps, Steele knew that the next few moments would determine not just the fate of their mission, but potentially the outcome of the entire war. The airlock hissed open, and Steele led the charge into the Gorn vessel, his team moving with practiced precision. The element of surprise was on their side, and within minutes they had subdued the Gorn crew with minimal casualties. "Transfer the prisoners to our shuttle," Steele ordered as he took stock of their new surroundings. "We'll use this ship to continue our mission. It'll give us better cover and more firepower if we need it." As his team worked, Steele's comm crackled to life. Admiral Sullivan's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Captain Steele, new intel from the data you sent. The Worldbreaker's activation sequence has already begun. You have days at most before it's operational. You need to move fast." Steele felt the weight of the galaxy settle on his shoulders. "Understood, Admiral. We're on our way." With the unconscious Gorn secured in their original shuttle and the patrol ship now under their control, Steele plotted a course deeper into enemy territory. As the stars streaked by outside, he knew that time was running out. The Worldbreaker loomed in their future, a threat that could end everything they had fought for. As they approached the star system housing the superweapon, the true scale of their challenge became apparent. A vast defensive network surrounded the Worldbreaker facility, orbital platforms filled with weapons, dense minefields, and a substantial Gorn fleet presence. Steele studied the tactical display, his mind already formulating a plan. They had come too far to fail now. Somehow they would find a way through those defenses and stop the Worldbreaker before it was too late. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, depended on it. Steele's eyes narrowed as he studied the formidable defenses surrounding the Worldbreaker facility. The captured Gorn patrol ship had brought them this far, but infiltrating the heavily guarded installation would require all their skill and ingenuity. "Chen, Begin transmitting those authorization codes, Steele ordered, his voice taut with tension. Everyone else, double-check your holographic disguises. We can't afford any slip-ups now. As the lieutenant's fingers flew over the console, inputting the carefully crafted codes gleaned from the Deathbringer and Fortress Alpha, an unexpected complication arose. The ship's sensors blared a warning, and the view screen flickered with static. "Captain," Chen reported, her voice tight, "we've got an ion storm approaching. It's interfering with our systems." Steele's mind raced, assessing the new threat. The electromagnetic disturbances could disrupt their holographic disguises and communication equipment, potentially exposing their true identities to the Gorn defenders. "Volkov," he called to the team's engineer, "I need you to reconfigure our shield emitters. Create a localized pocket of stable space around the vessel." The sergeant nodded, immediately setting to work. Within minutes, a shimmering bubble of energy enveloped their ship, stabilizing their vital systems. However, the cost was steep. Their engines sputtered, and weapons systems flickered offline. "It's the best I can do, Captain," Volkov reported. "We're stable, but we're running on fumes." Steele nodded grimly. "Then we play the part of a damaged vessel. Chen, hail the facility. Tell them we need emergency docking for repairs." The ruse worked. As their ship limped towards the massive structure, Gorn traffic control directed them to a maintenance bay on the outer ring. The team held their breath as they docked, acutely aware that discovery now would mean certain death. Once secure, Steele quickly divided the team. "Chen, Jackson, you're with me. We're heading for the main control systems. Volkov, you take Rodriguez and create a diversion in the power generation sector. Plant those explosives, but remember, we want disruption, not destruction. Not yet, anyway." The group split, each with their assigned tasks. Steele led his team through the winding corridors of the Worldbreaker, their Gorn disguises holding up under cursory inspection. They encountered several security checkpoints, each more challenging than the last. At one particularly daunting barrier, Chen's hacking skills were put to the ultimate test. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked to bypass the complex Gorn security protocols. Seconds stretched into minutes, each moment increasing the risk of discovery. Finally, with a soft beep, the barrier dissolved. "We're in," Chen whispered, relief evident in her voice. But their triumph was short-lived. As they approached the central control hub, they found themselves face-to-face with a biometric scanner that required Gorn physiology to grant access. Steele's mind whirled, searching for a solution. Then he remembered. The genetic material they'd collected from the captured patrol ship. "Chen, can you use this to fool the scanner?" The lieutenant took the sample, her fingers dancing over her equipment as she worked to integrate it with their disguises. Moments later, she nodded. "It's not perfect, but it should work. We'll only have a few seconds before the system realizes something's wrong." Steele took a deep breath. "It'll have to do. On my mark. Now." They rushed forward, Chen's improvised genetic key fooling the scanner just long enough for them to slip through. As the doors hissed shut behind them, they found themselves in the heart of the Worldbreaker facility. The sight that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. A massive chamber stretched before them, dominated by a swirling vortex of energy, the core of the Worldbreaker's planet-destroying capabilities. "My God," Jackson breathed, momentarily forgetting their mission in the face of such raw power. Steele snapped them back to focus. "Chen, disable those targeting systems and download everything you can. Jackson, start planting explosives around the chamber. We need to be ready to trigger a catastrophic overload." As they worked, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Steele's comm crackled to life, Volkov's voice coming through amidst the sound of weapons fire. "Captain, we've been made. We're engaged with Gorn security near the power sector." Steele's teeth gritted. Their window of opportunity was rapidly closing. "Detonate your charges now, Sergeant. We need that diversion." Moments later, the facility shuddered as explosions rocked the power generation sector. Emergency systems kicked in, plunging large sections of the Worldbreaker into darkness. "We're out of time," Steele announced. "Chen, do you have what we need?" The lieutenant nodded, disconnecting from the Gorn systems. "Affirmative, Captain. I've got the data and the targeting systems are offline." "Jackson, Are those charges set? The corporal gave a thumbs up. Ready to blow this place sky high, sir. Steele's eyes scanned the chamber, searching for an escape route. Their original plan was no longer viable, but there, a nearby hangar housing Gorn fighter craft. New plan, he announced. We're commandeering one of those fighters. Chen, get that hangar open. Jackson, cover our 6. Let's move. As they raced towards their improvised escape route, Steele knew that the most dangerous part of their mission was just beginning. They had succeeded in infiltrating the Worldbreaker and sabotaging its systems, but now they faced the daunting task of escaping Gorn space with their vital intelligence intact. The sound of approaching Gorn security forces echoed through the corridors. Steele gripped his weapon tighter, prepared for the fight of his life. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was determined to see this mission through. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, depended on it. It depended on their success. As they raced towards the Gorn fighter bay, alarms blared throughout the facility. The sound of heavy footfalls echoed behind them, signaling the approach of Gorn security forces. Steele's team sprinted down the corridor, their disguises flickering as the holographic emitters struggled to maintain cohesion. There, Chen shouted, pointing to a sleek, angular craft just ahead. Its design was unmistakably Gorn, with sharp edges and a predatory silhouette. Steele reached the fighter first, quickly assessing its exterior for any obvious entry points. Chen, get this thing open. The lieutenant's fingers flew over her datapad, interfacing with the Gorn systems. Seconds later, a hatch on the side of the fighter slid open with a hiss. Everyone in, now, Steele ordered, laying down suppressing fire as his team scrambled aboard. Once inside, they were confronted with an alien cockpit, unlike anything they'd seen before. The controls were a bewildering array of unfamiliar symbols and biomechanical interfaces clearly designed for Gorn physiology. Chen, can you make sense of this? Steele asked, sliding into what he hoped was the pilot's seat. Working on it, sir, she replied, her eyes darting across the consoles. I think I can... Yes, got it. The fighter's engines thrummed to life, a deep vibration that resonated through their bodies. Steele grasped what appeared to be the main control yoke, finding it responsive but alien to his touch. Hang on, he shouted as he engaged the thrusters. The fighter lurched forward, nearly colliding with the bay's walls before Steele managed to stabilize it. They shot out of the hangar, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake as Gorn security forces opened fire. The Worldbreaker facility rapidly shrank behind them, its massive form filling the view screen. Suddenly, a series of explosions blossomed across its surface. Jackson's charges detonating in a chain reaction. Nice work, Corporal, Steele said, a grim smile on his face. But their brief moment of triumph was short-lived. The ship's sensors lit up, showing a swarm of Gorn craft in hot pursuit. They're onto us, Chen reported, her voice tense. At least a dozen fighters, closing fast. Steele's hands tightened on the controls. The Gorn fighter, while powerful, handled like nothing he'd ever flown before. Every maneuver required intense concentration, his movements feeling clumsy and imprecise. Chen, I need your help here, he called out. See if you can decipher more of these systems. We need shields, weapons, anything you can give me. As Chen worked furiously to understand the alien technology, Steele pushed the fighter to its limits. He weaved through space debris, narrowly avoiding collisions as he tried to shake their pursuers. A warning tone suddenly filled the cockpit. Captain, Volkov called out from his station, we've got a problem. This thing's broadcasting our position to every Gorn ship in the sector. Steele cursed under his breath. Can you shut it down? Volkov shook his head. Not without risking a complete system shutdown. I need time to isolate the transponder. Time we don't have, Steele muttered, eyeing the approaching Gorn fighters on the tactical display. The first volley of enemy fire streaked past their ship, a near miss that made everyone flinch. Steele banked hard, diving beneath the incoming barrage. Jackson, tell me you figured out the weapons, Steele called out. I think so, sir, the corporal replied. But there's a vulnerability in their formation. If we cut through that asteroid field ahead, we might be able to lose some of them. Steele assessed the situation quickly. The asteroid field was dense and chaotic, a dangerous gamble under normal circumstances. But these were far from normal circumstances. "Good eye, Corporal. Everyone, brace yourselves. This is going to get rough." Steele angled the fighter towards the field of tumbling rocks and ice. As they plunged into the maelstrom, the ship shuddered and groaned, buffeted by the unforgiving environment. Asteroids loomed in the viewscreen, massive and threatening. Steele's world narrowed to a series of split-second decisions, each maneuver a dance between life and death. The Gorn pursuers, less adept at navigating the chaos, began to fall behind. Explosions flared in their wake as enemy ships collided with the space debris. But their stolen fighter wasn't immune to the dangers. A glancing blow from a chunk of ice sent them spinning, alarms blaring as their shields weakened. "Shields at 60% and falling," Chen reported, her voice strained. As they emerged from the other side of the asteroid field, Steele allowed himself a moment of relief. Their pursuers had been significantly thinned out, but the reprieve was short-lived. A massive shape loomed ahead, dwarfing their small craft. The Gorn battlecruiser filled the viewscreen, its weapons already tracking their approach. "New plan," Chen said suddenly, her eyes alight with a dangerous idea. "Captain, I think I can use the Worldbreaker data to disable that ship, but we'll need to get close. Very close." Steele met her gaze, understanding the risk. It was a desperate move, but they were out of options. "Do it," he ordered, setting course for the battlecruiser. As they closed the distance, the massive ship opened fire. Steele's world became a blur of evasive maneuvers, each near miss sending shock waves through their small craft. The ship's alarms blared constantly, warning of imminent shield failure. "Chen, whatever you're going to do it now," Steele shouted, feeling the fighter shudder under the assault. "Transmitting now," Chen called back. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, like a puppet with its strings cut, the battlecruiser went dark. Its weapons fell silent, its massive form beginning to drift aimlessly in space. Seizing the opportunity, Steele pushed their battered fighter to its limits. They streaked past the disabled battlecruiser, leaving behind a sea of confusion and distress signals. But as they sped towards the edge of Gorn space, long-range sensors painted a grim picture. A massive Gorn fleet was moving to intercept, drawn by the chaos they'd left in their wake. Steele's mind raced, assessing their options. Their fuel was low, their ship damaged, and they were still deep in enemy territory. But they had come too far to fail now. "Chen," he called out, his voice steady despite the dire situation. "I need you to search that Gorn database. Find us somewhere to hide, to regroup. There has to be something out there we can use." As Chen dove into the alien data, Steele angled their craft towards a dense nebula ahead. Its swirling gases might provide cover, a chance to catch their breath and plan their next move. The stolen fighter plunged into the cosmic mists, the pursuing Gorn fleet temporarily lost from view. But Steele knew the reprieve would be brief. Somewhere out there, beyond the veil of gas and dust, the enemy was closing in. Their mission to destroy the Worldbreaker had succeeded, but now an even greater challenge lay ahead, escaping Gorn space with their vital intelligence intact. As the nebula's gases swirled around their battered craft, Steele and his team prepared for the next phase of their desperate escape. The cockpit was tense with anticipation, each member acutely aware that the decisions made in the next few moments could determine not just their fate, but potentially the outcome of the entire human-Gorn conflict. Their mission to destroy the Worldbreaker had succeeded, but now an even greater challenge lay ahead, escaping Gorn space with their vital intelligence intact. Steele's hands gripped the alien controls tightly as he guided the stolen fighter deeper into the nebula. Swirling clouds of gas and dust engulfed them, reducing visibility to near zero. The cockpit's displays flickered and distorted, struggling against the intense electromagnetic interference. "Chen, any luck with that database?" Steele called out, his eyes never leaving the viewscreen. "Still searching, sir," Chen replied, her fingers dancing across her datapad. "The nebula's interfering with— Wait, I've got something. There's an abandoned mining outpost on a planetoid at the nebula's edge. It might offer us shelter and a chance to repair." Steele nodded, weighing their options. With fuel reserves critically low and systems failing, they had little choice. Set a course, Lieutenant. We'll make for the outpost. As they pushed deeper into the cosmic haze, new alarms began to blare. Volkov's face creased with concern as he studied his console. Captain, I'm picking up strange energy readings. Some kind of radiation I've never seen before. It's playing havoc with our systems. The fighter lurched suddenly, its engines sputtering. Steele fought the controls, barely keeping them on course. Chen, what's our status? Not good, sir, she reported grimly. Propulsion is failing, and life support is degrading rapidly. From her makeshift medical station, Dr. Rodriguez spoke up. I'm seeing early signs of radiation sickness in all of us. Whatever's out there, it's not just affecting the ship. Steele's teeth clenched as he processed this new threat. Emilia, do what you can for the team. Chen, how much farther to that outpost? We're approaching the coordinates now, but... Chen paused, her eyes widening. Sir, I'm detecting multiple vessels docked at the facility, and there are life signs inside, but they don't match Gorn biosignatures. The revelation sent a ripple of tension through the cockpit. Steele's mind raced, evaluating their dwindling options. With Gorn forces no doubt still in pursuit and their fighter on the verge of failure, they couldn't afford to be picky about potential allies or enemies. We don't have a choice, Steele decided. Engage our cloaking system, what's left of it. We're going in. As they approached the outpost, the team got their first visual. The facility was a patchwork of metal and stone, clearly built into the planetoid itself. A collection of mismatched spacecraft clustered around its docking ports, some familiar, others utterly alien. Steele maneuvered their battered fighter towards a secluded docking port, away from the other vessels. Chen, see if you can get us inside without raising any alarms. The lieutenant nodded, her fingers flying over her datapad as she interfaced with the outpost systems. Moments later, the airlock before them cycled open. We're in, Chen reported, but we should move fast. I don't know how long we'll stay undetected. The team disembarked quickly, weapons at the ready. They found themselves in a cavernous hangar bay, dimly lit and filled with the acrid scent of machine oil and unfamiliar spices. Crates of contraband and alien tech littered the area, evidence of a thriving black market operation. Moving silently through the shadows, they made their way deeper into the facility. The narrow corridors soon opened into a bustling bazaar, teeming with a diverse array of alien life. Steele's team pressed themselves against a wall, observing the scene before them. Merchants hawked wares from a dozen worlds, while what appeared to be mercenaries and refugees mingled in the crowd. It was clear that this outpost served as a haven for those seeking to avoid the Gorn Empire's reach. This could be useful, Steele murmured to his team. We might find allies here, or at least information we can use against the Gorn. Before they could formulate a plan, a hush fell over the nearest section of the bazaar. The crowd parted, revealing a towering alien figure flanked by armed guards. The being stood nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 muscular arms and iridescent scales that shimmered in the low light. The alien's eyes, 4 of them set in a diamond pattern, locked onto Steele and his team. It spoke, its voice translated through some unseen device. Humans, you are far from your home and uninvited to mine. I am Zarn Thalax, overseer of this refuge. State your purpose here, quickly, before I decide your fate. Steele stepped forward, keenly aware of the dozens of alien eyes now fixed upon them. The success of their mission, perhaps even the fate of humanity, could hinge on how he handled this unexpected encounter. Overseer Zarn Thalax, Steele began, choosing his words carefully. I am Captain Marcus Steele of the United Earth Fleet. My team and I come seeking temporary sanctuary and assistance. We carry information vital to the war against the Gorn Empire, information that could change the balance of power in this sector. Zarn Thalax's upper set of arms crossed over his chest, while the lower pair rested on what Steele assumed were weapons. The war against the Gorn, you say? Many here have suffered at their hands. But why should I risk the safety of this haven for your human conflict? Steele's mind raced, knowing he needed to offer something of value without revealing too much about their mission or the Worldbreaker's destruction. He took a calculated risk. Because, Overseer, what we've done may have already drawn the Gorn's attention to this region of space. They'll be searching, and they won't distinguish between humans and any other species that stands in their way. We offer you not just information, but a chance to prepare for the storm that's coming. A tense silence fell over the bazaar as Zarn Thalax considered Steele's words. The overseer's eyes narrowed, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a dangerous edge. You bring interesting claims, human, but claims require proof, and proof often comes at a price. Come, we will discuss this further in my chambers. Your fate, and perhaps the fate of this outpost, will be decided there. As Zarn Thalax turned to lead them deeper into the facility, Steele exchanged quick glances with his team. They had found shelter, however temporary, but they were far from safe. The true test of their mission and their diplomacy was just beginning. The true test of their mission and their diplomacy was just unfolding. Steele straightened his posture, acutely aware of the gravity of the moment. As they followed Zarn Thalax through winding corridors, the captain's mind raced, formulating a strategy. The diverse crowd in the bazaar had made one thing clear: they weren't the only ones with grievances against the Gorn Empire. Upon entering Zarn Thalax's chambers, Steele was struck by the eclectic mix of alien artifacts and advanced technology. The room seemed to encapsulate the nature of the outpost itself, a melting pot of cultures and innovations, all united in their desire to remain free from Gorn control. Zarn Thalax settled into a large ornate chair, his four eyes fixed intently on Steele. Now, human, you will provide the proof you spoke of, and know that if you attempt to deceive me, the consequences will be severe. Steele nodded, then turned to Chen. Lieutenant, if you would. Chen stepped forward, producing a small data crystal from a hidden compartment in her uniform. She approached a console near the wall, her movements careful and deliberate. With your permission, Overseer? She asked, gesturing to the console. Zarn Thalax waved one of his lower arms in assent. Chen inserted the crystal, and immediately, holographic displays sprang to life around the room. The data unfolded before them: sensor logs, partial schematics, and recorded footage of the Worldbreaker's destruction. Steele watched Zarn Thalax's reaction closely, noting the subtle shifts in the alien's posture as the evidence mounted. As you can see, Steele explained, gesturing to a particularly detailed schematic, this was no ordinary Gorn installation. The Worldbreaker represented a significant leap in their weapons technology. Its destruction has dealt a major blow to their war efforts. Zarn Thalax leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he scrutinized the data. Impressive, if true, but how can I be certain this isn't an elaborate deception? Before Steele could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A voice crackled over the outpost communication system, speaking in a language Steele didn't recognize. Zarn Thalax's posture stiffened, and he barked a series of commands into a nearby console. It seems, the Overseer said, turning back to Steele, that events may be unfolding faster than anticipated. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive surge in Gorn fleet activity in nearby systems. Steele's teeth gritted. They're looking for us. Zarn Thalax nodded grimly. Indeed, and in doing so they may soon discover this outpost, regardless of our decision to aid you. The chamber door slid open, and a diverse group of aliens entered, clearly leaders of various factions within the outpost. Their arrival sparked a heated debate, with arguments flying back and forth in a cacophony of languages. Steele watched as Zarn Thalax listened to each faction, his four eyes darting between speakers. The human captain knew this was a crucial moment. Their fate, and possibly the fate of the war, hung in the balance. Finally, Zarn Thalax raised all four of his arms, silencing the room. He turned to Steele, his voice carrying a weight of authority that seemed to resonate through the chamber. Captain Steele, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Your actions have brought the fury of the Gorn Empire to our doorstep. Yet you've also provided us with an opportunity, a chance to strike back against our common enemy. Steele nodded, recognizing the gravity of the situation. We understand the risk we've brought to your outpost, Overseer, but together, we have a unique opportunity. My team possesses vital intelligence on Gorn military capabilities. Combined with your resources and the diverse skills of your people, we could deal another significant blow to the Empire. Murmurs rippled through the assembled alien leaders. Zarn Thalax considered for a moment, then spoke. We will offer you temporary sanctuary and access to our resources to repair your vessel. In exchange, you will share your intelligence and assist in upgrading our defenses." "Agreed," Steele said without hesitation. "And I propose we take it a step further. This outpost could serve as a temporary base of operations. If we can establish contact with our fleet, we could coordinate a surprise attack on the searching Gorn forces." The chamber erupted into a flurry of activity. Alien leaders conferred in hushed tones, while others immediately began accessing data terminals, assessing the outpost's current capabilities. Zarn Thalax nodded approvingly. "A bold plan, Captain. It seems we have much work to do." As the meeting adjourned, the outpost transformed into a hive of activity. Steele and his team were led to a secure medical bay, where Dr. Rodriguez began treating their radiation exposure with a combination of human medicine and alien remedies. Meanwhile, Volkov and Jackson headed to the hangar, collaborating with a diverse team of alien mechanics to assess and repair their stolen Gorn fighter. The hangar buzzed with a mix of human and alien languages as they worked, sharing knowledge and techniques. Chen found herself in the outpost's communications hub, surrounded by an array of unfamiliar technologies. Alien communications experts guided her through their systems, working together to establish a secure channel to contact Admiral Sullivan's fleet. As Steele moved through the outpost, coordinating efforts and sharing intelligence, he couldn't help but marvel at the unexpected turn of events. The diversity of species around him, each contributing unique skills and technologies, presented both incredible opportunities and daunting challenges. Centuries-old rivalries simmered beneath the surface of their fragile alliance. Steele found himself mediating disputes between alien factions, each with their own agenda and view on how to proceed. It was a delicate balance, but one that could provide a significant tactical advantage if managed correctly. Just as they seemed to be making progress, a young alien burst into the command center, its tentacles writhing in agitation. It chittered rapidly to Zarn Thalax, who turned to Steele with a grave expression. "Captain, our enhanced sensors have detected a Gorn scout ship approaching. It's on a trajectory that will bring it within visual range of the outpost soon." Steele's mind raced, analyzing the situation. They had a critical decision to make, and quickly. The fate of the outpost, their mission, and possibly the entire course of the war, hung on what they did next. "Overseer," Steele said, his voice steady despite the tension in the room, "we need to call an emergency meeting. Every faction leader now. We have a decision to make, and we need to make it fast." As Zarn Thalax nodded and began sending out the call, Steele steeled himself for what was to come. The next few moments would determine everything, and he knew that whatever choice they made, the consequences would be far-reaching. The Gorn scout ship drew ever closer, unaware of the storm it was about to unleash. The tension in the room was palpable as Steele addressed the hastily assembled group of alien faction leaders. "We have a Gorn scout ship approaching," Steele said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We need to act fast to prevent detection." Zarn Thalax's four eyes narrowed as he processed the information. "If they discover this outpost, all we've built here will be lost." The room erupted into a cacophony of alien languages as the faction leaders argued about the best course of action. Steele caught snippets of translation through his earpiece. Some advocated for immediate evacuation, while others suggested a preemptive strike. "Silence!" Zarn Thalax's voice boomed, instantly quieting the room. He turned to Steele. "Captain, you've faced the Gorn before. What do you propose?" Steele's mind raced, considering their limited options. Suddenly, an idea sparked. "We need to misdirect them without raising suspicion. Overseer, does this outpost have cloaking technology?" Zarn Thalax nodded. "Indeed, though it's not designed for long-term use." "That's all we need," Steele said, a plan forming. "We'll combine your cloaking tech with a decoy maneuver. Lieutenant Chen, contact Sergeant Volkov. We need him in the hangar immediately." As Chen relayed the orders, Steele turned to the alien leaders. "We're going to need everyone's cooperation to pull this off." The next few minutes were a whirlwind of activity. Steele found himself in the outpost hangar, surrounded by a diverse team of human and alien engineers. Sergeant Volkov, his hands already covered in grease, was working feverishly on a small maintenance drone. "How's it coming, Sergeant?" Steele asked, eyeing the clock. Volkov grunted, not looking up from his work. "Almost there, sir. These alien techs know their stuff. We've retrofitted this drone with a holographic projector and a transponder. It'll look and sound like a damaged freighter." Nearby, Chen was huddled with a group of tentacled aliens at a communications console. "Distress signal is ready, Captain," she reported. "It'll broadcast in standard merchant code, reporting engine failure." Steele nodded approvingly. "Good work, everyone. Now comes the tricky part." The captain made his way to the outpost control center, where Zarn Thalax was coordinating the activation of the cloaking technology. The massive view screen showed the Gorn scout ship, now alarmingly close. "On my mark," Steele said, his eyes fixed on the approaching vessel. He took a deep breath, then, "Now!" The modified drone shot out of the hangar, its holographic systems flickering to life. Within seconds, the image of a battered freighter materialized, drifting away from the outpost position. "Distress signal broadcasting," Chen's voice came over the comms. For several agonizing moments, nothing happened. Then the Gorn ship altered course, moving to intercept the apparent civilian vessel. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the control center, but Steele's expression remained tense. "It's not over yet," he warned. His caution proved prescient. The Gorn ship, instead of merely scanning the decoy, began preparations to dock with it. "Damn," Steele muttered. "They're calling our bluff." Zarn Thalax's scales rippled with agitation. "If they attempt to board, they'll discover the ruse immediately." Steele's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes fell on a control panel labeled tractor beam in several alien languages. "Overseer," he said quickly, "your tractor beams. How precise are they?" Zarn Thalax's eyes widened in understanding. "Precise enough for what you're thinking, Captain." Steele outlined his plan rapidly, and Zarn Thalax summoned the outpost chief engineer, a squid-like alien named Zorlix. The alien's tentacles flew over the controls, making minute adjustments. "Ready," Zorlix burbled through a translator. All eyes were on the console as the Gorn ship extended its docking clamps towards the decoy. Steele held his breath, waiting for the perfect moment. "Now," he ordered. Zorlix activated the tractor beams. On the screen, the decoy drone suddenly jerked backwards, its holographic projection flickering wildly. "Jackson!" Steele barked into his comm. "Hit it!" In the next instant, the drone exploded in a brilliant but harmless display, perfectly mimicking a catastrophic engine failure. The Gorn ship recoiled, its sensors overwhelmed by the false readings Chen and her team had prepared. For several tense minutes, the Gorn vessel scanned the debris field. Steele could feel the collective anxiety of the outpost's inhabitants as they waited to see if their deception had worked. Finally, the Gorn ship's engines flared to life. In a flash of energy, it jumped to hyperspace, leaving the hidden outpost undiscovered. The control room erupted in cheers and a cacophony of alien victory cries. Steele allowed himself a small smile, but he knew their reprieve would be short-lived. "Well done, everyone," he said, silencing the celebration. "But this is just the beginning. The Gorn will be back, and in greater numbers. We need to prepare." Zarn Thalax nodded gravely. "Agreed, Captain. I suggest we convene a strategy meeting immediately." As they made their way to the outpost conference room, Steele's mind was already racing with possibilities. They had bought themselves some time, but the real challenge lay ahead. The hidden outpost had become more than just a refuge. It was now the front line in a war that would determine the future of the stars. Galaxy. Steele knew they needed to act fast to solidify their position and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Gorn Empire. As the strategy meeting convened, Steele found himself surrounded by a diverse array of alien species, each bringing unique perspectives and capabilities to the table. The room buzzed with a mix of languages, translators working overtime to keep everyone on the same page. "Our first priority," Steele began, "is to fortify this outpost. We need to make it as secure and self-sufficient as possible." Zarn Thalax nodded in agreement. "I've already instructed our engineers to begin upgrading our defense systems, but we'll need more than just technology to survive what's coming." A tall, avian creature with iridescent feathers stepped forward. My people can provide advanced cloaking technology. Combined with the right shielding, it could make this outpost virtually undetectable. Steele's eyes lit up at the prospect. Excellent. Sergeant Volkov, I want you to work with our new allies on integrating these systems. Volkov, still covered in grease from his work on the decoy drone, saluted sharply. Yes, sir. I'll get right on it. As the meeting progressed, each faction offered resources and expertise. A group of silicon-based lifeforms proposed modifications to the outpost shield generators, while former mercenaries suggested guerrilla tactics for hit-and-run operations against Gorn patrols. Lieutenant Chen, who had been working tirelessly at the communications hub, burst into the room. Captain, I've got good news. We've established a secure link with Admiral Sullivan's fleet. A ripple of excitement ran through the assembled aliens. Steele allowed himself a small smile. Well done, Lieutenant. This changes everything. We can coordinate our efforts on a galactic scale now. As the implications of this breakthrough sank in, Commander Vexilor, the former Gorn military officer who had defected to their side, spoke up. Captain, with your permission, I'd like to share some critical information about Gorn military protocols. I believe I can help identify vulnerabilities in their defenses. Steele nodded, gesturing for Vexilor to continue. The commander's insights proved invaluable, highlighting key Gorn supply lines and communication relay stations that could be targeted to disrupt the Empire's operations. As the meeting drew to a close, Dr. Rodriguez approached Steele. Captain, I've been working with some of the alien medical professionals here. We're setting up a stockpile of supplies and developing treatments that will work for multiple species. I have a feeling we're going to need it. Steele clasped the doctor's shoulder. Good thinking. We don't know what's coming, but we need to be prepared for anything. Over the next few days, the outpost transformed into a hive of activity. Volkov led a team of multi-species engineers in upgrading the defensive systems, integrating the avian cloaking technology with the enhanced shield generators. The result was a hybrid defense system capable of withstanding intense scrutiny and attack. Meanwhile, Jackson worked with the former mercenaries to modify several of the outpost's small craft. They equipped them with advanced stealth systems and EMP weapons designed to disable Gorn ships without destroying them, allowing for capture and intelligence gathering. Chen coordinated with alien communications experts to expand their network, creating a web of information that spanned several sectors. This network soon began picking up whispers of a growing resistance as refugees and defectors fled Gorn-controlled territories, drawn by rumors of a safe haven. Zarn Thalax utilized his extensive contacts in the galactic underworld to gather intelligence on Gorn fleet movements and key military installations. Each piece of information was meticulously analyzed and added to their growing strategic database. As their preparations neared completion, Steele called another meeting of the Outpost Council. The captain's face was grim as he addressed the assembled leaders. We've made incredible progress, but we can't stay on the defensive forever. I propose a mission to strike at a major Gorn fuel depot in a nearby system. If we can take it out, we'll cripple their fleet's ability to continue searching for us. Steele outlined his plan, detailing how they could use their upgraded stealth ships to approach undetected and deploy a team to sabotage the depot from within. The room erupted into heated debate, with some arguing that such a bold move might provoke an overwhelming Gorn response, while others saw it as a necessary risk. After intense discussion, the Council approved the mission, with the caveat that extreme caution be exercised to maintain the outpost's secrecy. With the green light given, Steele began assembling his strike team. He handpicked operatives from both his human crew and the most capable alien volunteers. The chosen team immediately began intensive training, learning to work together despite their physiological differences and overcoming language barriers. Chen and Vexilor threw themselves into creating a detailed blueprint of the Gorn fuel depot, using a combination of stolen data and intelligence from defectors. They identified critical weak points in the facility's design that could be exploited to cause maximum damage with minimal risk to the strike team. As the day of the mission approached, tension in the outpost rose to a fever pitch. Steele could feel the weight of expectation on his shoulders as he made final preparations. The success or failure of this operation could change the course of the war. On the eve of the mission, Steele gathered his strike team for a final briefing. Looking at the diverse group before him, humans standing shoulder to shoulder with aliens of all shapes and sizes, he felt a surge of pride and grit. Tomorrow we strike a blow not just for humanity, but for all species oppressed by the Gorn Empire, Steele began, his voice steady and resolute. Each of you brings unique skills and perspectives to this team. Together, we will show the galaxy that the Gorn are not invincible. As the briefing concluded, the strike team began boarding their modified stealth ship. Steele watched as the last of his operatives disappeared into the vessel, knowing that the fate of their fledgling alliance rested on the success of this mission. With a final nod to Zarn Thalax, Steele stepped aboard the ship. As the airlock sealed behind him, he took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. The ship's engines hummed to life, and under the cover of a carefully orchestrated sensor blind spot, they slipped away from the outpost and into the void of space. Behind them, the outpost began initiating a series of decoy operations designed to draw Gorn attention away from the fuel depot. Small groups of ships launched raids on minor Gorn outposts in neighboring systems, creating a pattern of activity that Gorn tacticians would struggle to interpret. As their stealth ship glided silently through space, Steele's mind raced with the possibilities that lay ahead. The outcome of this mission would determine whether their hidden outpost remained a secret base of operations or became the front line in an all-out war against the Gorn Empire. Whatever the result, Steele knew that the next few hours would change the course of the galaxy forever. As their stealth ship glided silently through space, Steele's mind raced with the possibilities that lay ahead. The outcome of this mission would determine whether their hidden outpost remained a secret base of operations or became the front line in an all-out war against the Gorn Empire. The modified vessel, incorporating alien cloaking technology, approached the massive Gorn fuel depot. Steele watched the tactical display as they slipped past the outer defense perimeter undetected. His eyes widened at the scale of the operation before them. Dozens of Gorn tankers docked and refueling, their massive forms dwarfing the strike team's ship. "Initiate Phase 1, Steele ordered, his voice low and steady. The team's expert hacker, an insectoid alien named Zixtat, chittered in acknowledgement. The maintenance airlock they had identified using Chen and Vexilor's blueprints loomed ahead. Zixtat's appendages flew over the ship's interface, connecting with the airlock's control panel. Steele held his breath as security protocols flashed across the screen, each one bypassed in rapid succession. With a soft hiss, the airlock opened. Steele nodded to his team. "Let's move." Inside the depot, the strike force split into 3 groups. Steele led his team towards the main control center, their footsteps eerily silent in the vast humming structure. He signaled to Corporal Jackson, who peeled off with the second group, heading for the primary fuel storage tanks. Dr. Rodriguez and her alien specialists moved swiftly towards the communication hub. As they progressed deeper into the facility, Steele's senses were on high alert. The lack of resistance was both a blessing and a concern. Had their infiltration truly gone unnoticed, or were they walking into a trap? His question was answered moments later when alarms blared throughout the depot. A security patrol had stumbled upon one of the incapacitated Gorn guards. Steele's team, already near the control center, found themselves suddenly engaged in a firefight with Gorn security forces. "Take cover!" Steele shouted, diving behind a console as energy bolts sizzled past. He surveyed his diverse team. A Zarnix warrior with 4 arms, each wielding a different weapon, a gelatinous blobian capable of absorbing and redirecting energy, and 2 of his own human crew. "Zarnix suppressing fire. Blobian, draw their attacks, and redirect." The team moved with practiced precision, their unique abilities complementing each other perfectly. Steele's tactical mind worked overtime, coordinating their efforts to overcome the Gorn defenders. Energy bolts flew back and forth, the air thick with the smell of ozone and burning circuitry. Meanwhile, in the fuel storage area, Jackson's team faced heavy resistance. Gorn reinforcements flooded the area, their scaled forms swarming through the maze of pipes and machinery. Jackson's voice crackled over the comm. "Multiple hostiles, sir! We're placing charges as fast as we can, but we're running out of time." Steele gritted his teeth, firing his weapon with deadly accuracy. Keep moving, Corporal. We need those explosives placed. In the communication hub, Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, we've secured the hub, but an automated distress signal was sent to the nearest Gorn battle fleet. Before we could stop it, enemy reinforcements are inbound. Steele's mind raced, calculating their rapidly diminishing options. With a Gorn fleet on its way, their timetable had just been cut drastically short. He made a split-second decision. Jackson, detonate now. We can't wait any longer. But, sir, not all charges are in place. That's an order, Corporal. Do it now. As Jackson's team scrambled to comply, Steele turned to his own group. We need to trigger a cascade failure in the power grid. It'll amplify the explosion and ensure maximum damage. His team worked feverishly at the control center consoles, overriding safety protocols and rerouting power. The first explosions rocked the facility, the floor beneath them shuddering ominously. Extraction point now, Steele barked into his comm. All teams, fall back to the ship immediately. What followed was a chaotic retreat through the disintegrating depot. The strike team fought their way back to the maintenance airlock, facing waves of desperate Gorn defenders. Each alien operative showcased their unique abilities. The Zarnix warrior becoming a whirlwind of destruction, the Blobian absorbing and redirecting Gorn energy weapons, while Zixtat hacked and sabotaged systems to clear their path. As they reached their ship, a massive Gorn battlecruiser emerged from hyperspace, its imposing form filling the view screen. Steele leapt into the pilot's seat, his hands dancing over the controls. The ship lurched forward, narrowly avoiding a barrage of Gorn weapons fire. Hold on, Steele shouted as he steered them directly towards a massive ruptured fuel tank. The team braced for impact, but at the last possible moment, Steele activated the experimental phase shift drive. Their ship passed through the tank like a ghost, while behind them, the pursuing Gorn battlecruiser collided with the volatile fuel. The resulting explosion lit up space like a newborn star. Steele used the chaos to their advantage, pushing their ship to its limits as they sped away from the expanding debris field. Secondary explosions consumed the remains of the fuel depot, the destruction visible even as they jumped to hyperspace. As the blue swirl of faster-than-light travel enveloped them, Steele allowed himself a moment to breathe. The mission, despite its complications, had been a success, but the close call with the Gorn battlecruiser served as a stark reminder of the escalating conflict. Their ship streaked through hyperspace, carrying news of their victory and the certainty that the war against the Gorn Empire had just entered a new, more dangerous phase. The hidden outposts they had left behind would soon face the full wrath of the Gorn, and Steele knew that their next moves would be critical in shaping the future of this interstellar conflict. Conflict. The hidden outposts they had left behind would soon face the full wrath of the Gorn, and Steele knew that their next moves would be critical in shaping the future of this interstellar war. As the stealth ship emerged from hyperspace near the outpost, Steele was immediately struck by the flurry of activity visible even from a distance. The successful raid on the Gorn fuel depot had not gone unnoticed, and word had spread rapidly through underground networks. The outpost, once a secret haven, now buzzed with an influx of new arrivals. Upon docking, Steele was greeted by Zarn Thalax, whose multiple eyes blinked rapidly in what the captain had come to recognize as excitement. Captain, our victory has inspired others to join our cause. We have representatives from at least 7 new species seeking asylum and offering their aid. Steele nodded, his mind already racing with the implications. We'll need to vet them carefully, set up a secure area for processing and interviews, and double our security protocols. We can't risk a Gorn infiltrator slipping through. As they made their way through the bustling corridors, Steele observed the diversity of the newcomers. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved with purpose, their differences set aside in the face of a common enemy. He caught snippets of conversation in a dozen different languages, the air filled with a sense of nervous energy and hope. Commander Vexilor approached, datapad in hand. Captain, among the new arrivals is a Krathian engineer named Zora. She claims to have critical intelligence about a secret Gorn research facility. Steele's interest piqued. What kind of facility? According to Zora, the Gorn are developing experimental faster-than-light drive technology. If her information is accurate, it could be a game changer. Without hesitation, Steele ordered, "Bring her to the command center. We need to hear this firsthand." Minutes later, Steele found himself face to face with Zora. The Krathian was tall and slender, with iridescent scales and large compound eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the room at once. Her voice was melodic as she spoke, her words translated through a small device at her throat. "Captain Steele, I bring news of a Gorn research station in the Nexus Nebula. They are on the verge of a breakthrough in FTL technology that would allow them to traverse the galaxy with unprecedented speed." As Zora detailed the facility's defenses and the nature of the research, Steele's mind whirled with possibilities. He exchanged glances with Zarnthalax and Vexilor, seeing his own thoughts mirrored in their expressions. "We need that technology," Steele declared. "If we can acquire it, we could outmaneuver the Gorn across entire sectors." The command center erupted into a flurry of activity as plans were set in motion. Lieutenant Chen immediately began working with Zora, dissecting the facility's security systems and formulating infiltration strategies. Sergeant Volkov was tasked with modifying a captured Gorn shuttle, integrating their own stealth technology to allow for undetected approach. As preparations for the mission intensified, the outpost continued to evolve. Training programs were hastily established to create mixed-species combat units, each leveraging the unique strengths of its diverse members. The hangar bay was a constant buzz of activity as ships were retrofitted and new defense systems were installed. Amidst the controlled chaos, a transmission from Admiral Sullivan's fleet brought unexpected news. "Captain," the Admiral's holographic form flickered to life in the command center. "We've made contact with a group of independent human colonies. They've been operating in secret, developing their own advanced technologies to avoid Gorn detection." Steele leaned forward, intrigued. "What are we looking at, Admiral?" "A small but formidable fleet of stealth ships, Captain. They're offering their support to our cause. I'm taking the main fleet to rendezvous with them, leaving a skeleton crew to maintain communication with the outpost." The news sent ripples of excitement through the command staff. The addition of these unknown human colonies and their advanced ships could significantly bolster their naval capabilities. As the days passed, long-range sensors detected increased Gorn fleet activity across multiple sectors. Commander Vexilor, analyzing the data, identified a pattern. "They're conducting a sector-wide search, Captain," Vexilor reported, his mandibles clicking with concern. "It's only a matter of time before they narrow down our location." Steele nodded grimly. "Then we need to move fast. How soon can we launch the infiltration mission?" "The modified shuttle will be ready in 48 hours, Volkov responded. "Good. I'll lead the strike team myself," Steele decided. "Chen, Jackson, Zora, you're with me. We'll also need a few of our new alien recruits with specialized skills." As the mission launch approached, tension in the outpost reached a fever pitch. The stolen FTL technology could provide the edge they needed to turn the tide of the war. But with Gorn forces closing in, the stakes had never been higher. Steele stood in the hangar bay, watching as final preparations were made to the modified Gorn shuttle. His hand rested on the weapon at his hip, a gesture that had become almost unconscious in recent weeks. As he observed his diverse team boarding the shuttle, he felt a mix of pride and apprehension. The Resistance stood at a crossroads. The success of this mission could propel them from a ragtag group of refugees to a force capable of challenging the Gorn Empire on a galactic scale. Failure could mean the end of everything they had fought for. As Steele stepped aboard the shuttle, the weight of their mission settled over him. The door sealed with a hiss and he moved to the cockpit, taking his place at the controls. With a final glance at the bustling outpost through the view screen, he initiated the launch sequence. The shuttle glided out of the hangar, its stealth systems engaged. As they accelerated away from the outpost and towards the coordinates of the Gorn research facility, Steele allowed himself a moment of reflection. Whatever the outcome of this mission, he knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Same as it had always been. Steele took a deep breath, steadying himself for the challenges ahead. As they approached the Gorn research facility, the mood in the shuttle grew tense. Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the silence, her tone sharp with concern. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple layers of defensive systems. This isn't what we expected. Steele leaned forward, studying the sensor readouts. The facility's outer perimeter bristled with advanced arrays and patrol ships, creating a web of surveillance far more intricate than their intelligence had suggested. Our original plan won't work, Steele muttered, his mind racing. He turned to his team, their faces a mix of grit and apprehension. Chen, scan for any incoming Gorn supply ships. We might be able to use one as cover. Minutes ticked by, each second feeling like an eternity as they hovered just outside the facility's detection range. Finally, Chen's console lit up. Got one, sir. Large cargo freighter approaching the facility. Perfect, Steele said, a grim smile crossing his face. Zora, think you can match its trajectory? The Krathian engineer nodded, her iridescent scales shimmering as she moved to the co-pilot seat. Affirmative, Captain. My species has extensive experience with precision maneuvering. With expert skill, Zora guided their shuttle into the freighter's sensor shadow. The team watched in tense silence as they drew closer to the facility, piggybacking on the larger ship's approach vector. Steele's hand hovered over the weapons console, ready to react at the slightest sign of detection. As they slipped past the outer defenses, a collective sigh of relief filled the shuttle. But their respite was short-lived. The internal security of the research station loomed before them, a labyrinth of checkpoints and automated systems. Corporal Jackson spoke up, his voice low. Sir, I've been reviewing the intel from Commander Vexilor. There's a maintenance access point we might be able to use. It's not on the main security grid. Steele nodded. Good work, Jackson. That's our way in. The team moved swiftly, exiting their shuttle and making their way to the maintenance shaft. As they entered the facility, the true scale of their challenge became apparent. Automated drones patrolled the corridors, their sensors sweeping for any sign of intruders. They ducked into a service alcove, narrowly avoiding a passing drone. Steele was about to give the order to move when a figure stepped out of the shadows, causing the team to raise their weapons instinctively. Wait! The figure held up its hands. I'm Dr. Lyrax. I want to help. Steele studied the Gorn scientist, noting the nervous flick of his tail and the earnest look in his eyes. Why should we trust you? Because I've seen what the Empire is becoming, Lyrax replied, his voice barely above a whisper. This technology, it's too dangerous in their hands. I can help you find it. After a moment's hesitation, Steele nodded. All right, Doctor, lead the way. With Lyrax's guidance, they navigated the facility's maze-like corridors, avoiding patrols and security checkpoints. The scientists' access codes proved invaluable, allowing them to bypass locked doors and restricted areas. As they approached the high-security vault housing the FTL drive, Steele turned to Chen and Zora. Chen, work with Dr. Lyrax to crack that vault. Zora, once we're in, you're on point for analyzing and disassembling the prototype. The team moved with practiced efficiency. Chen's fingers flew over the locking mechanism, while Lyrax provided critical override sequences. Within minutes, the vault door hissed open. Inside, the prototype FTL drive gleamed under harsh laboratory lights. Zora immediately set to work, her compound eyes taking in every detail as she began to disassemble the device. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Jackson's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, we've got company. Security forces are sweeping the station. Steele's mind raced. Jackson, set up a defensive perimeter. Chen, with me. We need to access the central computer. As Jackson and the alien operatives took up positions around the vault, Steele and Chen sprinted towards the facility's main control room. They encountered minimal resistance. Most of the security forces focused on sweeping the lower levels. Chen's hands moved in a blur over the computer terminals, downloading research data and planting viruses to corrupt the Gorn's progress. Steele kept watch, his weapon at the ready. Back at the vault, Zora's voice came through the comm, tinged with excitement. Captain, this technology, it's revolutionary. It could allow for instantaneous travel across vast distances. Before Steele could respond, the sound of weapons fire erupted from Jackson's position. Sir, we're engaged with Gorn security, heavy resistance. Hold your ground, Corporal, Steele ordered. We're almost done here. With the data secured and the prototype disassembled, Steele initiated the final phase of their plan. He accessed the facility's power core controls, initiating a cascade overload that would destroy the entire station. All units, fall back to the shuttle, Steele commanded. We're leaving! The team fought their way back through the facility, now crawling with Gorn's security forces. Dr. Lyrax proved his worth once again, guiding them through maintenance tunnels and emergency routes to avoid the heaviest concentrations of enemy troops. As they reached their shuttle, the first tremors of the impending core overload shook the station. Steele took the controls, his hands steady as he piloted them out of the disintegrating facility. They watched from a safe distance as the research station erupted in a massive explosion, confirming the success of their mission. But their victory was short-lived. Captain, Chen's voice was tight with tension. Long-range sensors are picking up a massive Gorn fleet, converging on our position. Steele's face hardened as he processed the implications. The Gorn Empire had committed a significant portion of its forces to hunt them down. Leading this armada back to their hidden outpost would be catastrophic. He made his decision. Set course for a series of randomized jumps through nearby systems. We need to lose them before we can rendezvous with Admiral Sullivan. As the shuttle disappeared into hyperspace with the Gorn fleet in pursuit, Steele knew that the true test of their resistance was just beginning. They had secured game-changing technology, but at the cost of drawing the full attention of the Gorn Empire. The shuttle hurtled through hyperspace, carrying its precious cargo in the hopes of the resistance. Steele's mind was already racing, planning their next move in this high-stakes game of interstellar cat and mouse across the galaxy. The tension in the shuttle was palpable as Steele initiated another hyperspace jump, the modified Gorn engines groaning under the strain. "How long can we keep this up, Captain?" Chen asked, her eyes fixed on the navigation console. Steele's teeth gritted. "As long as we have to. We can't risk leading them back to eat." His words were cut short as the shuttle lurched violently, alarms blaring throughout the cockpit. The swirling vortex of hyperspace outside the viewport suddenly collapsed, leaving them adrift in an unfamiliar sea of stars. "Status report," Steele barked, his hands flying over the controls. Zora's multifaceted eyes flicked rapidly between displays. "Navigation system failure, Captain. The constant jumps have overloaded the circuits." As the team worked to assess their situation, Corporal Jackson's voice cut through the chaos. "Sir, we've got a problem. We're surrounded by asteroids." Steele's gaze snapped to the forward viewport. True enough, a dense field of space rocks loomed before them, stretching as far as the eye could see. He gripped the controls tightly, his years of piloting experience kicking into overdrive. "Hang on, everyone," he ordered, guiding the shuttle into the treacherous maze of asteroids. The next few minutes were a blur of rapid maneuvers and near misses. Steele's hands danced across the controls, guiding the shuttle through gaps barely wider than the vessel itself. The rest of the team held their breath, watching as massive chunks of rock hurtled past, close enough to touch. As they penetrated deeper into the asteroid field, Chen's console lit up. "Captain, I'm detecting an anomaly. There's something big out there." Steele's eyes narrowed. "Define big, Lieutenant." Before Chen could respond, the asteroids ahead of them parted, revealing a colossal shape that dwarfed their shuttle. A massive derelict ship hung suspended in space, its hull pitted and scarred by countless impacts, yet still intact. "By the stars," Dr. Lyrax whispered, his scales rippling with excitement. "I've never seen anything like it." Steele studied the vessel, noting its alien design. It was unlike any ship he'd encountered in his years of space travel. The discovery presented both an opportunity and a risk. They needed a place to hide and repair their systems, but boarding an unknown alien vessel could be dangerous. After a moment's consideration, Steele made his decision. "We're going aboard. Chen, find us a docking point. Zora, prepare for emergency repairs once we're inside." The team worked quickly to maneuver the shuttle alongside the massive derelict. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, they established a seal between their airlock and a compatible port on the alien ship. Steele led the way, weapon drawn, as they crossed the threshold into the unknown vessel. The interior was cavernous, with high ceilings and wide corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly. Despite the ship's apparent age, many systems still hummed with latent energy. "Zora, what can you tell me about this place?" Steele asked as they moved deeper into the ship. The Krathian engineer ran her sensors over nearby consoles. It's incredible, Captain. The technology here is far beyond anything I've ever seen. Even the Gorn FTL drive pales in comparison. As they explored, they came across a vast chamber that appeared to be the ship's bridge. Chen and Dr. Lyrax immediately set to work on the central computer system, their fingers flying over alien interfaces. "Captain," Chen called out, her voice filled with awe, "you're not going to believe this. According to the ship's database, this vessel belongs to a species known as the Precursors." Dr. Lyrax's tail twitched excitedly. "The Precursors? But they're supposed to be a myth, a race of beings so advanced they could reshape entire galaxies at will." Steele approached the main view screen, where Chen had managed to activate a holographic display. "What else can you tell me?" Chen's eyes darted across streams of data. "This ship is called the Starforge. It's some kind of prototype, capable of creating and manipulating stable wormholes for instantaneous travel." The implications of such technology weren't lost on Steele. With a ship like this, they could potentially outmaneuver the entire Gorn fleet. "Can we get it operational?" Zora joined them at the console, her compound eyes taking in the schematics. "It will take some time to understand these systems fully, but I believe we can restore basic functionality." As the team set to work, Corporal Jackson's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got incoming. Multiple Gorn signatures entering the asteroid field." Steele's mind raced. They were out of time. "Zora, Chen, focus on getting that wormhole drive online. Jackson, set up defensive positions around the bridge. We need to buy them time." The next few minutes were a flurry of activity. Zora and Chen worked feverishly to decipher the precursor technology, while Jackson and the others prepared for a potential Gorn assault. Steele divided his attention between the two groups, acutely aware that their survival hung in the balance. Suddenly, the ship shuddered as the first Gorn energy blast impacted its ancient hull. Steele turned to Zora. "Tell me you have something." The Krathian's mandibles clicked rapidly. "I think so, Captain, but I can't guarantee where it will take us." Another blast rocked the ship. Through the view screen, Steele could see Gorn vessels closing in. It was now or never. "Do it," he ordered. Zora activated the wormhole drive. The space around the Starforge began to warp and twist, reality itself seeming to bend. A brilliant flash of light engulfed them, and Steele felt a moment of utter disorientation. When his vision cleared, the asteroid field and the Gorn ships were gone. Instead, an unfamiliar starscape greeted them through the Starforge's viewports. "Where are we?" Steele asked, his voice hushed. Chen checked the navigation systems, her eyes widening. "Captain, if these readings are correct, we're on the other side of the galaxy." As the team grappled with the implications of their impossible journey, Steele's mind was already racing ahead. They had escaped the immediate threat, but now faced a new set of challenges. They needed to learn to control this immensely powerful ship, find their way back to their allies, and figure out how to use this technology to turn the tide against the Gorn Empire. Steele looked around at his team, seeing a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration on their faces. "All right, people, we've got work to do. Let's see what this ship can really do." Let's see what this ship can really teach us about the precursors," Steele said, his eyes scanning the vast bridge of the Starforge. As the team began to explore their new surroundings, the initial excitement of their escape gave way to a growing sense of unease. The ship's systems, while incredibly advanced, seemed to pulse with an unstable energy. Zora's antennae twitched as she ran her scanner over a nearby console. "Captain, I'm detecting some worrying fluctuations in the wormhole drive. The energy signature is becoming increasingly erratic." Steele frowned, moving to her side. "Can you stabilize it?" The Krathian engineer's compound eyes flickered rapidly. "I'm trying, but the system is far more complex than anything I've ever encountered. It's resisting my attempts to interface with it." As if to underscore her words, the ship shuddered violently, causing everyone to stumble. Warning klaxons blared throughout the bridge. "Status report," Steele barked, steadying himself against a nearby terminal. Chen's fingers flew across her console. "The wormhole drive is destabilizing rapidly, sir. If we can't get it under control, it could tear the ship apart." Steele's mind raced, assessing their options. "All right, we need to divide and conquer. Zora, Chen, Focus on stabilizing that drive. Jackson, take Dr. Lyrax and continue exploring the ship. Look for anything that might help us control these systems, or contact Admiral Sullivan. The team split up, each group tackling their assigned tasks with urgency. Steele moved between them, offering support and keeping everyone focused amidst the growing chaos. In the engine room, Zora and Chen worked feverishly to understand the complex web of precursor technology. Holographic displays swirled around them, filled with alien symbols and pulsing energy patterns. "This doesn't make sense," Zora muttered, her mandibles clicking in frustration. "The instability, it's not random. There's a pattern to it, almost like—" Chen's eyes widened as she caught on. "Like it's deliberate. A failsafe?" They exchanged a look of realization. "The precursors must have implemented a security measure," Zora said, "to prevent their technology from being misused." Meanwhile, Jackson and Dr. Lyrax made their way through the vast corridors of the Starforge. Their path led them to a massive set of doors, which slid open as they approached. "By the cosmic winds," Dr. Lyrax breathed, his tail swishing in excitement. Before them stretched an enormous hangar bay, filled with sleek spacecraft of various sizes. Unlike the rest of the ship, these vessels appeared pristine, untouched by the passage of time. Jackson activated his comm. "Captain, you're going to want to see this. We've found what looks like a fleet of advanced ships. If we can get them operational—" Steele's voice crackled back. "Good work, Corporal. Any sign of how to activate them?" Before Jackson could respond, a new alarm blared through the ship. Chen's voice came over the comm, tight with tension. "Captain, we're picking up a massive energy signature nearby. It just appeared out of nowhere." Steele rushed to the bridge's main viewport. As he watched, space itself seemed to ripple and distort. From the void emerged a colossal structure, a space station of clearly precursor design, its surface etched with glowing lines of power. "How did we not see that before?" Steele wondered aloud. Dr. Lyrax, who had rejoined them on the bridge, studied the readings. Some form of advanced cloaking technology, perhaps. It only revealed itself once we were in close proximity. As they watched, the Starforge's systems began to stabilize. The erratic pulsing of the wormhole drive smoothed out, and dormant consoles across the bridge flickered to life. "Captain," Zora called out, her voice filled with awe. "The ship, it's responding to the station. I think it's coming fully online." Steele felt the deck vibrate beneath his feet as the Starforge moved of its own accord, guided by some unseen force toward the precursor station. As they approached, a massive hangar bay opened, perfectly sized to accommodate their vessel. "Automated docking procedures," Chen reported, her hands hovering uncertainly over her console. "Should I try to override?" Steele considered for a moment, then shook his head. "No, let's see where this takes us. But be ready for anything." The Starforge glided smoothly into the station, coming to rest with a gentle thud. As the docking clamps engaged, a surge of energy flowed through the ship. Holographic displays sprang to life across the bridge, coalescing into a humanoid figure. "Greetings, inheritors," the hologram spoke, its voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "You have found the Nexus, a waypoint on your journey to claim the legacy of the precursors." The team listened in stunned silence as the hologram explained the true nature of their discovery. A vast network of precursor technology created to defend against a threat that bore an uncanny resemblance to the Gorn Empire. As the message concluded, Steele found himself staring at a galactic map, dotted with the locations of other precursor installations. They were far beyond the edges of known space, in a region untouched by any known civilization. The implications of their discovery began to sink in. They held the key to potentially saving the galaxy from Gorn domination, but they were cut off from their allies and in uncharted territory. Steele turned to his team, seeing the same mix of awe and persistence reflected in their eyes. "All right, people, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Let's start by exploring this station and see what other secrets the precursors left behind." As they prepared to disembark and explore the Nexus, Steele couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something far greater than they could have ever imagined. The next phase of their journey was about to begin, and the fate of the stars hung in the balance. Balance. The fate of countless worlds now rested on their shoulders. As they ventured deeper into the Nexus, Captain Steele and his team found themselves in a vast chamber filled with pulsing blue light. At its center stood a sleek cylindrical console that seemed to hum with latent energy. "This must be the primary control interface," Zora observed, her antennae twitching with excitement. Steele approached the console, and as he did, a shimmering holographic display sprang to life before him. Streams of data cascaded through the air, forming intricate patterns that shifted and changed with dizzying speed. "It's responding to me," Steele said, his voice filled with wonder. He raised his hand and the holographic display reacted, zooming in on a particular section of information. Dr. Lyrax's tail swished as he studied the display. "Fascinating. It appears to be a detailed schematic of the precursor technology network. And look here." He pointed to a pulsing node within the hologram. "This must be our current location." As they explored the interface, they uncovered more about the true nature of the Nexus. It wasn't just a way station or a repository of knowledge. It was a factory capable of producing highly advanced technology, including specialized nanites. "These nanites," Chen said, her eyes wide as she read the information scrolling before them, "they're designed to interface with biological entities, to enhance them." Steele felt a jolt of anticipation run through him. "Enhance how?" "It says here they can unlock latent abilities," Chen continued, "and provide direct access to precursor systems." The implications were staggering. With such capabilities, they might stand a chance against the Gorn Empire. Steele made a split-second decision. "I'll do it," he said, his voice firm. "I'll undergo the nanite integration." His team looked at him with a mixture of concern and admiration. "Captain," Jackson began, "are you sure? We don't know what the risk might be." Steele nodded. "We don't have the luxury of caution. Every moment we spend here, the Gorn grows stronger. We need every advantage we can get." With that decided, they made their way to the Nexus's medical bay. Steele lay down in a chamber that looked more like a work of art than a medical device. As the transparent lid closed over him, he felt a moment of trepidation. The process began. A swarm of microscopic machines flooded the chamber, surrounding Steele in a glittering cloud. As they made contact with his skin, he felt a sensation like 1,000 pinpricks all over his body. The discomfort grew, intensifying until it bordered on pain. Steele gritted his teeth, forcing himself to remain still as the nanites worked their way through his system. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he felt as if he were floating in an endless sea of information. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The chamber opened, and Steele sat up, blinking in the bright light of the medical bay. "Captain?" Zora asked, her compound eyes studying him intently. "How do you feel?" Steele took a deep breath, assessing himself. He felt different, sharper, more aware. He looked at the medical console nearby, and suddenly he could read the data streaming across its screen as easily as if it were written in his native language. "I feel incredible," he said, standing up. As he did, he felt a surge of energy course through him. With a thought, he accessed the Nexus's systems, bringing up a holographic display of the entire station. "This is amazing," he breathed. "I can see everything, control everything, with just a thought." The team watched in awe as Steele interfaced with the Nexus, quickly stabilizing the Starforge's systems and bringing its full capabilities online. With his enhanced abilities, he gained a deeper understanding of the precursor technology than they could have achieved in months of study. "The Starforge," he said, his eyes unfocused as he processed vast amounts of information. "It can create wormholes to specific coordinates within the precursor network. We could use it to return to known space, to contact Admiral Sullivan." Before they could celebrate this discovery, a loud alarm blared through the Nexus. Steele's mind immediately connected with the long-range sensors, and what he saw made his blood run cold. "We've got company," he announced grimly. "A massive Gorn fleet, larger than anything we've ever encountered. They must have tracked our initial wormhole jump." The team's expressions hardened as they realized the gravity of their situation. They were alone, cut off from their allies, facing an overwhelming enemy force. But Steele wasn't ready to give up. An idea formed in his mind, audacious and risky, but potentially game-changing. "We're going to use the Starforge," he declared. "We're going to build our own fleet." As his team looked at him in shock, Steele interfaced with the Starforge's production systems. In his mind's eye, he saw the designs for advanced precursor vessels, far beyond anything the Gorn possessed. "Lieutenant Chen, Zora, I need you to optimize these ship's systems. Jackson, Dr. Lyrax, the Nexus can create AI pilots. I need you to train them." As his team sprang into action, Steele focused on the production process, pushing the Starforge to its limits. Slowly but surely, a small fleet of sleek, powerful ships began to take shape in the Nexus's massive hangar. Time was against them. The Gorn fleet would arrive within hours, and their newly created force was vastly outnumbered. But as Steele looked at the advanced precursor ships, gleaming and ready for battle, he felt a glimmer of hope. He sent out an encrypted subspace message to Admiral Sullivan, knowing it was a long shot but unwilling to leave any stone unturned. Then he turned his attention to the upcoming battle. As the Gorn fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, Steele connected his mind to the Starforge and their small but powerful fleet. He could feel the pulse of each ship, the hum of their advanced weapons. The space around the Nexus erupted into a dazzling light show as the battle began. Steele's strategy of using micro-wormholes to strike from multiple vectors simultaneously caught the Gorn off guard, and dozens of enemy ships exploded in the opening salvo. But the Gorn numbers were overwhelming. As the battle raged on, Steele realized that despite their technological advantage, they couldn't hope to defeat the entire armada. They needed a way out, a way to escape with their invaluable discoveries while dealing a crippling blow to the Gorn forces. As energy weapons crisscrossed the void and explosions lit up the darkness of space, Steele's enhanced mind raced, formulating a plan. The fate of not just their small team, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Whatever he decided next would determine the course of the war against the Gorn Empire. Steele's enhanced mind raced, formulating a plan. He interfaced with the Starforge's systems, initiating a complex series of wormhole jumps. The precursor ships began to execute a coordinated retreat, each vessel opening small wormholes to confuse and disorient the Gorn forces. "All ships prepare for Phase 2, Steele commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The crew watched in awe as Steele manipulated the holographic controls with lightning speed. Suddenly, a massive wormhole burst into existence directly behind the heart of the Gorn fleet. The spatial anomaly caught the enemy off guard, causing chaos in their formation. Several Gorn ships were pulled into the wormhole, vanishing into the void. "Now's our chance," Steele said. "Dr. Lyrax, begin the Nexus overload sequence." The silicoid scientist's crystalline fingers danced across the console, initiating power core destabilization. "We have minutes at most, Captain." As the Nexus's systems began to fail, energy readings spiked to unprecedented levels. The ancient station groaned and shuddered, pieces of its structure breaking away. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump," Steele ordered. The Starforge's engines hummed to life, and their small fleet of precursor vessels moved into formation. Just as the Nexus reached critical mass, Steele activated the final wormhole. The Starforge and its escort ships plunged into the spatial tear, which closed behind them with a flash of light. Moments later, the Nexus erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, engulfing a significant portion of the Gorn armada. The Starforge emerged from the wormhole in a distant sector of space. As the crew regained their bearings, Lieutenant Chen spoke up. "Captain, I'm detecting debris fields throughout the system. It looks like—" "Oh no." Steele's enhanced senses quickly processed the data. The wreckage was unmistakably human in origin. "This was one of our outer colonies," he said grimly. Zora's antenna drooped. "The Gorn beat us here." "We need to salvage what we can," Steele decided. "Chen, scan for any intact data cores or communication equipment. We need to piece together what happened here." As the salvage operation began, Zora made an intriguing discovery. "Captain, some of this debris contains an unknown alloy. It seems to have partially resisted the Gorn weapons." Steele directed the Starforge to analyze the material. "Good work, Zora. This could give us an edge." While Chen worked on reconstructing the colony's final transmissions, Jackson and Dr. Lyrax focused on integrating the recovered human technology with their precursor systems. "We're making progress on the hybrid comm array," Jackson reported. "If we can get it working, we might be able to contact Admiral Sullivan." As the team worked, a faint subspace signal caught Steele's attention. He focused his enhanced senses on the transmission, decoding its pattern. "It's a human deep space recon team protocol," he announced, "coming from that asteroid field." The Starforge cautiously approached the dense cluster of space rocks. As they navigated through the field, a hidden outpost came into view, built into one of the larger asteroids. "It bears the UEG Special Operations insignia," Chen observed. Steele nodded. "Prep a boarding team. We need to make contact, but be ready for anything. They might not be too happy to see us in this precursor ship." As Steele led the small team towards the outpost's airlock, tension filled the air. The fate of humanity might well depend on the outcome of this encounter. The airlock cycled open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. Steele stepped forward, his enhanced senses on high alert. Suddenly, a voice crackled over a hidden speaker. "Halt and identify yourselves immediately. This is a restricted UEG facility." Steele raised his hand slowly. "This is Captain Marcus Steele of the UEG starship Starforge. We're here to help." A moment of silence followed, then the voice returned. "Starforge? That ship was reported lost months ago. How did you—" The speaker cut off abruptly, replaced by the sound of hurried footsteps. A hidden door slid open, revealing a small group of haggard-looking soldiers, their weapons trained on Steele and his team. The leader, a battle-worn woman with close-cropped gray hair, stepped forward. "I'm Major Elena Volkov. You have exactly 30 seconds to convince me you're not Gorn spies before I order my team to open fire." Steele met her gaze steadily. "Major, we've just returned from uncharted space with vital intelligence on the Gorn and access to advanced precursor technology. We need to make contact with Admiral Sullivan immediately." Volkov's eyes narrowed. "Precursor tech? That's quite a claim, Captain. Care to back it up?" In response, Steele interfaced with the outpost systems through his nanite connection. The lights flickered and a holographic display sprang to life, showing detailed schematics of Gorn ships and weapons. "This is just a fraction of what we've discovered," Steele said, "but we need your help to get this information to the right people." Major Volkov lowered her weapon, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. "Well, Captain Steele, it seems we have a lot to discuss. Welcome to Outpost Omega." Omega. As Major Volkov led them deeper into the facility, Steele couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something far more significant than a simple outpost. The narrow corridors gave way to a bustling command center, where screens flickered with real-time data and personnel moved with purpose. "Welcome to our humble abode, Captain," Volkov said, gesturing around the room. "We've been monitoring Gorn activity in this sector for months, trying to piece together their strategy." Before Steele could respond, a tall, stern-looking man in a commander's uniform strode towards them. His piercing gaze swept over the newcomers, lingering on Zora and Dr. Lyrax. "I'm Commander Jason Hawkins," he announced, his voice gruff. "Major Volkov, care to explain why you've brought aliens into our top-secret facility?" Volkov straightened. "Sir, this is Captain Marcus Steele and his crew from the UEG starship Starforge. They claim to have vital intelligence on the Gorn and access to advanced precursor technology." Hawkins's eyebrows shot up. "Steele? I remember you from the Proxima campaign. Thought you were dead." "It's a long story, Commander," Steele replied, "but we've got information that could turn the tide of this war." Hawkins studied him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's hear it. But first, we need to bring you up to speed on our situation." Over the next hour, Hawkins briefed Steele and his team on the grim state of the war. Earth's main fleet had been pushed back to the core worlds, leaving countless colonies vulnerable. This outpost, codenamed Omega, was one of the last bastions of human resistance in the sector. "We're working on something here," Hawkins revealed, leading them to a secure lab. "Project Phoenix, advanced stealth tech, experimental weapons. But progress has been slow. We're outgunned and running out of time." Steele exchanged glances with his team. "Commander, I think we might be able to help with that. The precursor technology we've acquired, it's beyond anything we've seen before. As Steele began to explain the capabilities of the Starforge and the mysterious alloy they'd discovered, Hawkins's eyes widened. "This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for," he said, a hint of excitement creeping into his voice. "We need to combine our efforts," Steele proposed. "Merge your Phoenix tech with what we've learned from the precursors. Create something the Gorn won't see coming." Hawkins nodded, already formulating plans. "Agreed. Let's get our teams working together immediately." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Lieutenant Chen and Dr. Marcus Reeves, Omega's chief engineer, worked tirelessly to integrate the Phoenix stealth systems with precursor cloaking technology. In the materials lab, Zora and Dr. Lyrax collaborated with human scientists to unlock the secrets of the adaptive armor. Corporal Jackson found himself in the tactical center, running combat simulations with Omega's officers. The hybrid technology opened up new strategies that could potentially level the playing field against the Gorn's superior numbers. As Steele oversaw the integration efforts, he couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. They were making progress, but would it be enough? And more importantly, would it be in time? His thoughts were interrupted by a blaring alarm. "Gorn scout ships detected!" an officer shouted. "They're sweeping the asteroid field!" Hawkins sprang into action. "Initiate silent running protocols. Power down all non-essential systems." Steele's enhanced mind raced through possibilities. "Commander, the Starforge. Its cloaking technology could mask the entire outpost." Without hesitation, Hawkins nodded. "Do it." Interfacing with the precursor ship, Steele guided it into position above Omega. As the Gorn scouts drew near, the outpost seemed to vanish from sensors, hidden beneath the Starforge's advanced cloaking field. Minutes stretched into hours as the Gorn patrol methodically searched the asteroid field. Inside Omega, personnel held their breath, acutely aware of how close they were to discovery. Finally, after what seemed an eternity, the scouts moved on. As the all-clear was given, Hawkins turned to Steele. "That was too close. We need to accelerate our plans." Steele nodded grimly. "Agreed. It's time to take the fight to them." Over the next week, the combined human and precursor teams pushed themselves to the limit. The Starforge's production capabilities were put to the test, creating components for a new breed of warship. In Omega's cavernous hangar bay, the first prototype began to take shape. As Steele watched the Phoenix Ascendant near completion, he felt a mix of pride and apprehension. This ship represented the best of both human ingenuity and precursor technology. But would it be enough to turn the tide? A transmission from Earth brought both hope and sobering reality. Admiral Sullivan had received their message and was sending reinforcements. But they were few in number. The bulk of humanity's remaining ships were needed to defend the core worlds. "Looks like we're on our own out here," Hawkins said, his face grim as he read the message. Steele nodded, his enhanced mind already formulating strategies. "Then we'll have to make every ship count. Hit-and-run tactics, striking key Gorn installations." As they finalized their plans, the gravity of their situation deeply affected on everyone. They were about to embark on a dangerous mission with experimental technology against a vastly superior force. The fate of not just this sector, but possibly the entire human race, hung in the balance. Steele looked around at the determined faces of both his original crew and the Omega personnel. Despite the odds, there was a palpable sense of hope in the air. They had created something unprecedented, a fusion of human and precursor technology that just might give them a fighting chance. As the final systems on the Phoenix Ascendant came online, Steele knew they were at a turning point. The real test was yet to come, and the Gorn Empire had no idea what was about to hit them. As the final systems on the Phoenix Ascendant came online, an urgent transmission from Admiral Sullivan interrupted the preparations. Steele and Hawkins rushed to the command center, their faces grim as they listened to the message. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Sullivan's weary face. "Captain Steele, Commander Hawkins, we have a critical situation." Sullivan's voice crackled through the speakers. "Our long-range sensors have detected a massive Gorn invasion force heading straight for Earth. It's larger than anything we've ever encountered before." Steele's enhanced mind rapidly processed the implications. "How long do we have, Admiral?" "At their current speed, less than 2 weeks," Sullivan replied, his voice heavy with the weight of responsibility. "We need every ship we can muster. Whatever you've been working on out there, we need it now." As the transmission ended, Steele and Hawkins exchanged looks of perseverance. "We can't wait any longer," Hawkins said, voicing what they both knew. "We have to launch now." Steele nodded, already interfacing with the Starforge's systems to accelerate production. "Agreed, we'll have to make do with what we have." Over the next 48 hours, the base was a flurry of activity. The Phoenix Ascendant, along with 3 other hastily completed hybrid vessels, were prepped for immediate departure. Crews worked tirelessly, loading supplies and calibrating systems. As the small fleet assembled in the asteroid field, Steele addressed the combined crews. "This is Task Force Phoenix," he announced, his voice carrying across the comm channels. "Our mission is clear: disrupt the Gorn invasion force and buy Earth the time it needs to prepare its defenses." Just as Task Force Phoenix prepared to depart, Dr. Lyrax burst into the command center, her eyes wide with excitement. "Captain, Commander, we've made a breakthrough." She quickly explained their discovery, coordinates to a hidden precursor manufacturing facility located in a nearby nebula. Steele's mind raced with possibilities. This facility could be the key to turning the tide, he mused. After a moment's consideration, he made a decision. "We'll split our forces. Half will investigate the precursor facility, while the other half begins hit-and-run attacks on Gorn supply lines." As they finalized the plan, alarms blared throughout the base. "Gorn battle group detected on an intercept course," an officer reported, her voice tense. Hawkins's face hardened. "They must have detected our increased activity. We need to buy time for the task force to escape." Steele started to protest, but Hawkins cut him off. "I'll stay behind with a skeleton crew. We'll use the base's prototype defenses to hold them off as long as we can." Reluctantly, Steele agreed. As he boarded the Phoenix Ascendant, he clasped Hawkins's shoulder. "We'll be back," he promised. The task force slipped away just as the Gorn ships entered the system. Steele watched on the long-range scanners as Hawkins activated the base's stealth systems, their signal fading from view. Once clear of the asteroid field, the task force split into 2 groups. Steele took command of the ships heading for the precursor facility, while Lieutenant Chen led the group tasked with raiding Gorn supply lines. As Steele's group entered the nebula, they encountered treacherous conditions. Pockets of intense radiation and gravitational anomalies threatened to tear the ships apart. Thanks to their hybrid technology, they navigated the dangers, their advanced sensors guiding them through the chaos. After hours of tense maneuvering, they finally spotted their objective. The precursor facility loomed before them, a massive structure suspended in the heart of the nebula. Its sleek alien design contrasted sharply with the swirling gases surrounding it. As they approached, the facility's automated defense systems sprang to life. Energy beams lanced out, narrowly missing the lead ship. "Evasive maneuvers," Steele ordered, his fingers flying over the control panel as he attempted to interface with the precursor systems. His enhanced mind connected with the alien technology, sending out a complex series of signals. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the defenses powered down. "We're clear," Steele announced, relief evident in his voice. "Prepare to dock and send in the exploration teams." As they entered the facility, the true scale of their discovery became apparent. It wasn't just a manufacturing plant, it was a massive shipyard, capable of producing capital ships that could rival the entire Gorn fleet. However, as they explored further, they realized the facility was in a dormant state. Steele's enhanced senses told him it would take significant time and resources to fully activate its systems. "We can't wait here," Steele decided after conferring with his team. "We'll leave a small group to begin the activation process. The rest of us need to rendezvous with Chen's raiders and head for Earth." As they prepared to depart, Steele received an unexpected transmission. The message was from an unknown source, identifying herself as Zarlith, a representative of a coalition of species who had also suffered under Gorn oppression. "Captain Steele," the alien voice spoke, her tone urgent, "we have been monitoring your activities. We believe an alliance between our peoples could turn the tide of this war. We have a secret fleet, hidden from the Gorn, that could aid in your defense of Earth." Steele's mind raced with the implications of this new development. As Task Force Phoenix set course to rendezvous with Chen's group, he knew that the coming battle would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the balance of power in the entire galaxy. With the promise of precursor technology and a potential new ally, they raced towards Earth, acutely aware that time was running out. The Gorn invasion force loomed closer with each passing moment, and the future of humanity hung in the balance. The future of humanity hung in the balance as Task Force Phoenix raced towards Earth. Captain Steele's enhanced mind was already formulating strategies, analyzing every scrap of data from long-range sensors. As they approached the outer edges of the solar system, an urgent transmission cut through the tense silence on the bridge. "Task Force Phoenix, this is Admiral Sullivan. The Gorn have arrived ahead of schedule. The battle for Earth has already begun." Steele's grip tightened on his command chair. "Status report, Admiral." Sullivan's holographic image flickered, his face etched with concern. "Our defense fleet is severely outnumbered. We're holding the line, but barely. We need your advanced tech, and we need it now." "Understood, Admiral. We're on our way." Steele cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "All hands, battle stations. We're going in hot." As they entered the fray, the sight that greeted them was one of chaos and destruction. Earth's orbital defenses were ablaze, debris from destroyed ships littering near space. The massive Gorn armada dominated the sky, their ships a stark contrast to the beleaguered human fleet. Steele's mind raced, formulating a plan. "We'll split into 3 groups. Lieutenant Chen, take a third of our ships and coordinate with Earth's defense fleet. Upload our hybrid tech specifications. Let's give them an edge." Chen nodded sharply. "Aye, sir. We'll turn this fight around." "Corporal Jackson, you'll lead the second group. Engage the Gorn directly. Show them what these hybrid ships can do." Jackson grinned, a predatory gleam in his eye. "With pleasure, Captain." "I'll lead the third group myself," Steele continued. "We're going after their command ship." As Task Force Phoenix divided, the battle intensified. Chen's group quickly integrated with Earth's defenders, their advanced tech spreading through the human fleet like wildfire. Suddenly, Earth ships were moving with newfound agility, their weapons striking with deadly precision. Jackson's team unleashed the full power of their hybrid vessels. The Gorn, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of these unknown ships, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Stealth systems allowed Jackson's ships to strike from unexpected angles, while their adaptive armor shrugged off retaliatory fire. Steele's strike team pushed deeper into the heart of the Gorn fleet, their target looming before them, a colossal ship that dwarfed even the largest Earth vessels. The Starforge's sensors probed the behemoth, revealing a weakness in its shielding. "There," Steele muttered, his enhanced senses guiding his hands on the controls. "All ships, follow my lead. We're going in." The strike team wove through a storm of enemy fire, Steele's piloting skills pushing their hybrid ship to its limits. They skimmed along the surface of the Gorn command ship, weapons blazing, until they reached their target. "Boarding party, prepare for insertion," Steele ordered, unstrapping from his seat. "We're going aboard." The team fought their way through the alien corridors, facing waves of Gorn defenders. The close quarters amplified the brutality of the combat, each room and passageway becoming a battleground. "Central control room should be just ahead," Dr. Lyrax called out, checking a holographic map projected from her wrist device. "Once we're there, I can upload the virus." As they neared their objective, the ship rocked violently. Steele tapped his comm. "Report!" "Sir, this is Chen. Good news and bad news. Zarlith's coalition fleet just arrived. They're engaging the Gorn as we speak, but the Gorn command ship has activated some kind of energy shield. You're cut off from extraction." Steele gritted his teeth. "Understood. We'll complete the mission and worry about extraction later. Steele, out." They breached the central control room in a hail of gunfire and energy blasts. As his team secured the perimeter, Steele escorted Dr. Lyrax to the main console. "How long?" he asked as she began the upload process. 5 minutes to fully integrate and propagate through their systems," she replied, her fingers flying over the alien interface. Those 5 minutes stretched into an eternity as Gorn reinforcements assaulted their position. Steele and his team held the line, their hybrid weapons and armor proving their worth against the seemingly endless waves of attackers. Just as Dr. Lyrax called out, "Upload complete," a massive explosion rocked the ship. Steele steadied himself against a console, watching as the effects of the virus spread through the Gorn fleet. Outside, the tide of battle had shifted dramatically. The combined might of Earth's Defense Fleet, Task Force Phoenix, and Zarlith's coalition was steadily pushing back the now disorganized Gorn armada. Ship after ship winked out of existence or fled into hyperspace. As the last Gorn vessels retreated, cheers erupted across the human fleet. Earth was safe for now, but aboard the disabled Gorn command ship, Steele and his team found themselves in a precarious situation. Cut off from their allies and surrounded by hostile forces, they needed to find a way out, and fast. Steele surveyed his team, noting their persistence despite their exhaustion. "All right, people, we've won the battle, but we're not done yet. Let's find a way off this ship." As they began to formulate an escape plan, Steele couldn't help but wonder what new challenges awaited them. The Gorn had been pushed back, but they weren't defeated. And with Earth now thrust onto the galactic stage, the future promised to be anything but peaceful. Uneventful. The disabled Gorn command ship loomed before them, a colossal hulk of alien metal now eerily silent in the aftermath of the battle. Steele's enhanced senses tingled with danger as he assessed their situation. "We need to move," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This ship may be crippled, but it's far from empty." Dr. Lyrax nodded, her fingers dancing over a portable scanner. "I'm detecting multiple life signs converging on our position. Gorn survivors, most likely." "Then let's not give them a warm welcome," Corporal Jackson quipped, checking the charge on his hybrid rifle. Steele's mind raced, analyzing their options. He closed his eyes for a moment, focusing his enhanced abilities on the ship's systems. A flood of alien data poured into his consciousness, a chaotic mix of status reports and damage assessments. "I can interface with some of the ship's functions," he announced, opening his eyes. "Not enough for full control, but it might give us an edge." As if on cue, the sound of clashing metal echoed from beyond the sealed doors of the control room. The Gorn were trying to break through. "Barricade those entrances," Steele ordered. "Use whatever you can find. We need to buy time." The team sprang into action, dragging alien consoles and debris to fortify their position. Steele returned his attention to the ship's systems, probing deeper into its network. Outside the command ship, Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled over the comm channels. "Task Force Phoenix, this is Sullivan. We're organizing a rescue operation. Hold tight." Steele acknowledged the transmission, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. But he knew they couldn't rely solely on external help. They needed to act. "I've got partial access to internal sensors," Steele announced. "I can track Gorn movements throughout the ship. There's a clear path to the starboard hangar bay. For now." Jackson grinned. "Sounds like our ticket out of here, Cap." Before Steele could respond, a violent tremor shook the ship. Warning klaxons blared, their alien tones grating against human ears. Dr. Lyrax's eyes widened as she interpreted the data on her scanner. "They've initiated a self-destruct sequence. We have less than 30 minutes before this entire vessel becomes a fireball." Steele's lips pursed. "Change of plans. We move now. Stay close, watch each other's backs, and follow my lead." With a hiss of hydraulics, the control room doors slid open. Steele took point, his hybrid weapon at the ready. The corridors beyond were a maze of flickering lights and exposed circuitry. The ship's wounds laid bare. They encountered the first group of Gorn defenders at an intersection. The reptilian aliens charged with reckless abandon, their clawed hands brandishing energy weapons. Steele's enhanced reflexes kicked in, his body moving with fluid precision. He ducked under a plasma blast, returning fire with deadly accuracy. Jackson and the others followed suit, their hybrid weapons cutting through the Gorn resistance. But for every enemy they felled, more seemed to appear. "This way!" Steele called out, guiding them down a side passage. His mind was plugged into the ship's network, constantly updating their route to avoid the heaviest concentrations of Gorn. They fought their way through section after section, the clock ticking relentlessly toward detonation. Steele could sense the rescue team's progress through the ship, a separate stream of combat data in his enhanced awareness. As they neared the hangar bay, Steele made a split-second decision. Jackson, take the team and rendezvous with the rescue force. Dr. Lyrax, you're with me. Sir? Jackson questioned, even as he provided covering fire against a fresh wave of Gorn attackers. There's a data core 2 levels down, Steele explained between bursts of weapons fire. If we can access it, we might gain crucial intelligence on the Gorn. It could turn the tide of the entire war. Jackson nodded, understanding the stakes. We'll hold the exit for you, sir. Don't be late. As the main group peeled off toward the hangar, Steele and Dr. Lyrax descended deeper into the ship's bowels. The tremors were growing more violent, entire sections of corridor collapsing around them. They reached the data core chamber, only to find it heavily guarded by a squad of Gorn elites. These were no ordinary soldiers, but veterans of countless battles, their scales adorned with the marks of their conquests. Can you download the data if I get you to the terminal? Steele asked, his eyes never leaving the Gorn. Dr. Lyrax nodded, clutching her datapad. Just give me 2 minutes of uninterrupted access. Steele's lips curled into a grim smile. 2 minutes it is. He burst into motion, his precursor-enhanced body pushing the limits of human capability. He weaved through plasma bolts, closing the distance to the Gorn elites in seconds. His hybrid weapon sang a deadly song, each shot finding its mark with unerring precision. But the elites were formidable opponents. They matched Steele's speed with raw power and combat experience. Claws raked across his armor, leaving deep gouges. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, searing flesh beneath his suit. Steele fought on, his mind processing combat data faster than any unaugmented human could hope to match. He anticipated attacks before they came, countering with devastating efficiency. I'm in the system, Dr. Lyrax called out, her fingers flying over the alien interface. Steele acknowledged with a grunt, locked in close-quarters combat with the Gorn leader. They grappled, a furious exchange of blows that would have pulverized an ordinary human. Download complete, Dr. Lyrax announced just as Steele gained the upper hand, snapping the Gorn leader's neck with a sickening crack. The ship lurched violently, the self-destruct sequence entering its final stages. Steele grabbed Dr. Lyrax's arm, and they sprinted for the exit. The path back was a gauntlet of collapsing corridors and electrical fires. Steele's enhanced senses guided them through the chaos, avoiding cave-ins by mere seconds. They reached the hangar bay just as the last rescue shuttle was preparing to depart. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comms. Captain, jump now! Without hesitation, Steele scooped up Dr. Lyrax and leaped from the disintegrating ship. They sailed through the vacuum of space, propelled by the force of internal explosions. For a heart-stopping moment, they were adrift in the void. Then the rescue shuttle swooped in, its hatch open. Strong hands grabbed them, pulling them to safety just as the Gorn command ship erupted into a massive fireball. As the shuttle rocketed away from the explosion, Steele allowed himself a moment of relief. They had survived, and with the data they'd recovered, they might have just changed the course of the war. But there was no time to rest on their laurels. As soon as they docked with the Starforge, Admiral Sullivan's voice came over the ship-wide communications. Captain Steele, report to the command center immediately. We need to debrief and analyze that Gorn data. Steele nodded to his team, a silent acknowledgement of their incredible feat. Then he straightened his shoulders and headed for the command center, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The debriefing would be intense, but it was a small price to pay for the potential game-changing intelligence they had acquired. As Steele entered the command center, he was greeted by a flurry of activity. Officers and analysts hurried between workstations, their faces a mix of excitement and concern. Admiral Sullivan stood at the center of it all, his weathered face set in stubborn persistence. Captain, Sullivan nodded, gesturing for Steele to join him at the main holographic display. Your team's success has opened up new possibilities, but it's also accelerated our timeline. The display flickered to life, revealing a sprawling map of nearby star systems. Scattered across it were pulsing points of light. the newly discovered network of dormant precursor installations. Our analysis of the Gorn data has revealed the locations of these sites, Sullivan explained. We believe they're key to understanding and fully utilizing precursor technology, but we're not the only ones who know about them now. Steele studied the map, his enhanced mind rapidly processing the strategic implications. The Gorn will be racing to secure these installations, he concluded. Sullivan nodded. Exactly, which is why I'm tasking you and the rest of Task Force Phoenix with a new mission. We need to investigate and secure as many of these sites as possible before our enemies can reach them. Steele felt a surge of anticipation. This was the kind of high-stakes operation he and his team had been engineered for. What's our first target, sir? The Admiral zoomed in on a specific sector, highlighting a cluster of asteroids. We've detected energy signatures consistent with precursor tech in this asteroid field. It's the closest installation to our current position. You'll take the Starforge and secure the site. As Steele absorbed the mission parameters, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in how far they'd come. The Starforge, once a mysterious alien vessel, was now fully operational and integrated with the latest human precursor hybrid technology. It was a testament to humanity's adaptability and the strength of their new alliances. Understood, Admiral, Steele said. We'll depart immediately. Within hours, the Starforge and its escort ships dropped out of hyperspace near the target asteroid field. The massive chunks of rock hung silently in the void, betraying no sign of the advanced technology they supposedly harbored. Steele stood on the bridge, his core team assembled around him. Lieutenant Chen manned the tactical station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she scanned for potential threats. Zora, the alien engineer, monitored the ship's hybrid systems with a look of focused concentration. Dr. Lyrax pored over the sensor data, searching for clues to the precursor installation's exact location. Captain, Chen called out, her voice tight with urgency. I'm detecting multiple ships within the asteroid field. They don't match any known Gorn or Coalition signatures. Steele's eyes narrowed. Put it on screen. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a motley collection of vessels weaving through the asteroids. They were a hodgepodge of designs, clearly cobbled together from various alien technologies. Scavengers, Zora growled, her alien features contorting in disgust. Steele's mind raced, assessing the situation. These opportunists could complicate their mission, but they weren't the real enemy. He needed to neutralize the threat without unnecessary bloodshed. Chen, target their engines and weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy, Steele ordered. Zora, prepare a boarding team. Dr. Lyrax, I want you to focus on pinpointing the precursor installation. We'll deal with these scavengers quickly and move on to our primary objective. The bridge erupted into action as Steele's orders were carried out. The Starforge's advanced weapon systems made short work of the scavengers' defenses. Within minutes, the ragtag fleet was dead in space, their ships powerless and drifting. As Steele led the boarding party onto the largest of the disabled vessels, he encountered minimal resistance. Most of the scavengers, faced with the overwhelming technological superiority of the task force, chose to surrender rather than fight. However, one member of the scavenger crew caught Steele's attention. A female alien, her species unfamiliar to him, worked furiously at a makeshift computer terminal, her fingers flying over the keys even as task force soldiers surrounded her. Step away from the console, Steele commanded, his weapon trained on her. The alien turned, her large, multifaceted eyes regarding him with a mix of defiance and curiosity. You're not Gorn, she said, her voice carrying an odd melodic quality. Who are you? Captain Marcus Steele, Task Force Phoenix, he replied. And you are? Kirazol, she answered, straightening up. I'm the one who got us this far into the asteroid field. Your arrival was unexpected. Steele's enhanced senses picked up on subtle cues in her body language and tone. She was skilled, confident, and potentially valuable. An idea began to form in his mind. You're a hacker, he stated. It wasn't a question. Kirazol's antenna twitched in what Steele interpreted as amusement. I prefer the term data specialist, but yes. Steele made a quick decision. We're here to secure a precursor installation. Your skills could be useful. You have a choice. Join our mission or face imprisonment for attempted theft of restricted technology. Kirazal's eyes narrowed as she considered the offer. After a moment, she nodded. I've always wanted to see the inside of a precursor facility. Count me in. With the scavenger threat neutralized and an unexpected addition to their team, Steele refocused on their primary mission. Dr. Lyrax's voice crackled over the comm, excitement evident in her tone. Captain, I've located the installation. It's embedded in the largest asteroid in the field. And, sir, it's powering up. Steele felt a surge of anticipation. They were about to take their first steps into a facility that had lain dormant for millennia. What they found inside could change the course of the war, and perhaps the future of humanity itself. As the Starforge maneuvered closer to the asteroid, the ancient precursor structure began to reveal itself. Massive doors hidden beneath layers of space dust and rock slowly ground open. The installation was awakening, responding to the presence of those who carried precursor-enhanced genes. Steele gathered his team, including the newly recruited Kirazal. This is it, he said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. We're about to step into history. Stay alert, watch each other's backs, and remember, what we find in there could be the key to saving Earth and our allies. With a nod to his team, Steele led the way into the yawning entrance of the precursor facility. The air crackled with possibility as they crossed the threshold, ready to uncover the secrets that awaited them within. As Steele and his team ventured deeper into the precursor facility, their surroundings began to shift. The ancient, dust-covered corridors gave way to sleek, luminescent pathways that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Kirazal's multifaceted eyes darted from side to side, taking in every detail of the alien architecture. This technology, it's beyond anything I've ever seen, she whispered, her antenna twitching with excitement. Before Steele could respond, an urgent transmission crackled through his comm unit. Captain Steele, this is Admiral Sullivan. We have a situation. Steele raised his hand, signaling his team to halt. Go ahead, Admiral. The Gorn have launched a massive assault on our coalition allies. Zarlith's fleet is surrounded and taking heavy losses. We need Task Force Phoenix on the front lines immediately. Steele's enhanced mind quickly processed the implications. Their mission to secure the precursor installation was critical, but the coalition's survival hung in the balance. He made his decision in a split second. Understood, Admiral. We're on our way. As the team double-timed it back to the Starforge, Steele briefed them on the situation. Within minutes, they were back on the bridge, the asteroid field shrinking behind them as they entered hyperspace. The Starforge dropped out of hyperspace into chaos. The vast expanse of space before them was filled with the flashes of weapons fire and the burning hulks of destroyed ships. The Gorn Armada had encircled the Coalition fleet, its ships forming a deadly noose that tightened with each passing moment. Steele's eyes narrowed as he assessed the battlefield. The Coalition's ships were fighting valiantly, but they were clearly outgunned and outnumbered. Without intervention, it would only be a matter of time before they were overwhelmed. Lieutenant Chen, give me a tactical analysis, Steele ordered, his voice calm despite the dire situation. Chen's fingers flew over her console. The Gorn have concentrated their command and control ships at the rear of their formation. They're coordinating the assault from there. Steele nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. That's our target. We'll split into 3 groups. Chen, you'll lead the first group in a diversionary attack on their front lines. Zora, your team will provide covering fire and protect the Coalition's flanks. I'll take the Starforge and our most advanced ships for a strike on their command center. As the orders were relayed, the task force swung into action. Chen's group surged forward, their hybrid ships dancing between Gorn vessels, weapons blazing. The sudden attack caught the Gorn off guard, creating pockets of chaos in their previously orderly formation. Zora's team moved to reinforce the Coalition's weakest points, their advanced shields absorbing punishment that would have vaporized conventional vessels. Zarlith's voice came over the comm, strained but grateful. Your timing is impeccable, Captain Steele. We can't hold out much longer. Just keep them busy a little longer, Steele replied, his eyes fixed on the Gorn command ships. The Starforge and its escort activated their experimental stealth systems, the fruits of their precursor research. They slipped past the main body of the Gorn fleet, invisible to enemy sensors. As they closed in on the command ships, Steele gave the order. All ships, fire at will. The Starforge's advanced weaponry lashed out, cutting through the Gorn command ships without effort. Several key vessels erupted into fireballs before the Gorn even realized they were under attack. The effect was immediate and dramatic. With their command structure in disarray, the Gorn fleet's movements became erratic and uncoordinated. The coalition forces, seizing the opportunity, began to break out of the encirclement. As the battle raged around them, Steele received an urgent transmission from Dr. Lyrax. Captain, we've made a critical discovery at the precursor facility. There's a defense system capable of neutralizing entire fleets non-lethally, but it requires a specific genetic key, a combination of human and Gorn DNA. Steele's mind raced. Such a system could end not just this battle, but potentially the entire war. Yet using it meant leaving the ongoing fight, risking the coalition's survival in his absence. After a moment's hesitation, Steele made his decision. Lieutenant Chen, you have command of the task force. Hold the line and protect the coalition at all costs. As the Starforge and a small escort broke away from the battle, Steele could see a significant Gorn force peeling off to pursue them. The race to the precursor facility had begun, with the fate of humanity and all alien species hanging in the balance. The Starforge's engines pushed to their limits as they hurtled through space, the pursuing Gorn ships hot on their heels. Steele stood on the bridge, his enhanced senses taking in every detail of their desperate flight. He knew that every second counted, not just for them, but for the coalition forces they'd left behind. As they approached the precursor facility, Steele prepared himself for what lay ahead. The genetic key, the defense system, the pursuing Gorn, all would come to a head in the ancient alien installation. Whatever happened next would shape the course of the war, and Steele was determined to see it through. Through to victory. As the Starforge hurtled towards the precursor facility, Steele's enhanced senses worked overtime, processing every bit of data streaming through the ship's systems. His hands danced over the controls, making minute adjustments to their trajectory as they weaved through a dense asteroid field. Gorn pursuit vessels closing fast, Captain. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm. They're pushing their engines beyond safe limits. Steele's lips pursed. Divert auxiliary power to the rear shields. We just need to stay ahead for a few more minutes. The ship shuddered as a Gorn energy blast grazed their stern. Kirazal, who had insisted on joining the bridge crew, clung to her station. I don't suppose your fancy precursor tech has any more tricks up its sleeve? She asked, her antennae twitching nervously. We're about to find out, Steele replied, his eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching precursor installation. As they neared the facility, massive doors ground open, revealing a cavernous hangar bay. Steele's fingers flew over the controls, initiating a docking sequence that pushed the Starforge's systems to their limits. The ship's frame groaned under the stress as they decelerated rapidly, sliding into the hangar with mere meters to spare. The moment the airlock sealed, Steele was on his feet. Chen, Kirazal, you're with me. The rest of you, prepare for Gorn borders. They sprinted through the facility's winding corridors, the ancient structure humming to life around them. As they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with Dr. Lyrax and her team. Captain, thank goodness, Lyrax panted. We've got the defense system prepped, but we need your genetic sample to complete the activation. A distant explosion rocked the facility. Gorn are inside, Chen reported, her weapon at the ready. Steele nodded grimly. Lead the way, Doctor. They raced to the central control room, the sounds of battle echoing through the corridors behind them. Inside, a massive array of precursor technology pulsed with ethereal light. Dr. Lyrax quickly ushered Steele to a strange, organic-looking console. Place your hand here, she instructed. The system will extract the necessary genetic material. As Steele complied, Chen and Kirazal took up defensive positions by the door. The room shuddered under the impact of Gorn weapons fire. How long? Steele asked, his voice tense. Just a few more seconds, Lyrax replied, her eyes glued to the readouts. The system is combining your DNA with the stored Gorn samples. Suddenly, the door exploded inward. Chen and Kirazal opened fire as Gorn soldiers poured into the room. Steele drew his sidearm with his free hand, joining the fight while keeping his other hand firmly on the console. "It's done!" Lyrax shouted over the chaos. "Initiating the defense system now!" A wave of energy surged through the facility, momentarily overwhelming Steele's enhanced senses. He staggered, blinking away the disorientation, to find the Gorn soldiers collapsed on the floor, their weapons dark and inert. "It worked," Chen breathed, lowering her weapon. Steele turned to the main view screen, watching as the energy wave expanded outward. Gorn ships in the immediate vicinity went dark, drifting aimlessly in space. But the wave didn't stop there. "Doctor, what's happening?" Steele demanded as the energy continued to spread. Lyrax's face paled as she studied the readings. "The defense system, its effects are more widespread than we anticipated. It's neutralizing all non-precursor technology in its path. Including our allies," Steele realized with growing horror. The view screen showed the main battle, where moments ago the Coalition had been on the brink of defeat. Now, Gorn and Coalition ships alike floated powerless in the void, the energy wave continuing its relentless expansion. "Can we shut it down?" Chen asked urgently. Lyrax shook her head. "Not easily. The system was designed to activate in times of extreme threat. It's operating on protocols we don't fully understand yet." Steele's mind raced, weighing their options. The Gorn threat had been neutralized, but at what cost? If the energy wave continued unchecked, it could reshape the balance of power throughout known space. "Kirazal," he said suddenly, turning to the alien hacker, "you said you specialize in interfacing with alien tech. Think you can work some magic on this precursor system?" Kirazal's multifaceted eyes glittered with excitement and apprehension. "I can try, but I've never seen anything like this before." "Do it," Steele ordered. "The rest of us will buy you time. We need to find a way to control this defense system before it's too late." As Kirazal set to work, her fingers dancing over the alien interface, Steele turned his attention back to the view screen. The energy wave continued its inexorable expansion, leaving powerless ships in its wake. Coalition and Gorn alike drifted in the void, their fate now resting in the hands of Task Force Phoenix and the ancient precursor technology they had awakened. With the immediate Gorn threat neutralized but a potentially greater danger looming, Steele knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The race to understand and control the precursor defense system had become a battle against time itself, with the fate of galactic civilization hanging in the balance. Balance. The energy wave's relentless advance filled the view screen, a silent tsunami of power sweeping across the stars. Steele's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes darted between the unconscious Gorn soldiers on the floor and the expanding wave of energy that threatened both friend and foe alike. He turned to Dr. Lyrax, his voice urgent but controlled. "Doctor, we need options. How do we stop this?" Lyrax's fingers flew over the alien console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The system's core programming is incredibly complex. It's operating on protocols we barely understand." Steele nodded, his enhanced mind processing the information at lightning speed. He scanned the room, his gaze settling on Kirazal. "You said you could interface with alien tech. Now's our chance to put that to the test." The alien hacker's multifaceted eyes glittered with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She moved swiftly to the console, her six-fingered hands hovering over the controls. "I'll do my best, but this is far beyond anything I've encountered before." As Kirazal began her work, the facility shuddered under the impact of distant explosions. Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got multiple breaches. Gorn boarding parties are pushing deeper into the installation." Steele's heart made. "Understood. Hold them off as long as you can. We need time." He turned back to the main view screen, watching as the energy wave continued its inexorable expansion. Coalition and Gorn ships alike drifted powerless in its wake, countless lives now at the mercy of the ancient precursor technology. Suddenly, Steele felt a familiar tingling sensation. The precursor DNA flowing through his veins seemed to resonate with the facility's systems. Acting on instinct, he placed his hand back on the organic-looking console. The effect was immediate. Information flooded his enhanced mind. streams of data and alien concepts cascading through his consciousness. He gasped, staggering under the mental onslaught. "Captain!" Dr. Lyrax cried out, moving to support him. Steele raised a hand, steadying himself. "I'm all right. I think I've found something." His eyes, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light, scanned the invisible data streaming before him. "There's an emergency protocol buried in the core programming, a way to create a containment field that could halt the wave's expansion." Kirazol looked up from her work, her antennae twitching with interest. "That's great news. How do we activate it?" Steele's expression grew grim. "That's the problem. Generating the field requires more power than this facility can provide on its own." Another explosion rocked the installation, closer this time. The sounds of energy weapons and shouted orders echoed through the corridors outside. Steele's mind raced, considering their options. Suddenly, his eyes widened with realization. The Starforge, its power core is based on precursor tech. If we can interface it with the facility's systems, we might generate enough power to create the containment field. Lyrax finished, her voice filled with cautious hope. Steele nodded, already moving towards the exit. "It's our only shot. Kirazol, keep working on deciphering the system. Dr. Lyrax, start the preparations for the power transfer. I'll coordinate with the Starforge's crew." As he sprinted through the winding corridors, Steele activated his comlink. "Starforge, this is Captain Steele. I need you to reconfigure the ship's power core to interface with the precursor facility's systems. It's going to be a dangerous procedure, but it's our only chance to stop this energy wave." The ship's chief engineer responded, his voice tense but determined. "Understood, Captain. We'll begin immediately. But, sir, you should know, this could potentially overload and destroy the Starforge." Steele's pace didn't falter as he rounded a corner, narrowly avoiding a burst of Gorn weapons fire. "Acknowledged, it's a risk we'll have to take." He found Chen and her team engaged in intense close-quarters combat with a group of Gorn soldiers. Steele drew his weapon, joining the fray. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to move with preternatural speed, disarming one Gorn and using its own weapon against its comrades. As the last Gorn fell, Steele turned to Chen. "We need to secure the docking bay. The Starforge is about to attempt a critical power transfer, and we can't afford any interference." Chen nodded, signaling to her team. "We're on it, Captain." They moved swiftly through the facility, fighting off Gorn resistance at every turn. Steele's enhanced senses allowed him to anticipate attacks, guiding his team through the chaos with strategic precision. As they approached the docking bay, Steele's comm crackled to life. It was Lieutenant Chen, her voice strained. "Captain, we've got a situation at the main battle site. Zarlith's flagship is drifting powerless, its life support failing. We're mounting a rescue operation, but it's going to be close." Steele's mind raced, calculating the potential impact of losing the coalition leader. "Understood, Lieutenant. Do whatever it takes to get them out of there." They burst into the docking bay, quickly securing the area. Through the massive bay doors, Steele could see the few remaining operational hybrid ships, forming a defensive perimeter around the facility. Beyond them, Gorn vessels that had escaped the initial blast of the defense system were regrouping, preparing for another assault. The Starforge loomed before them, its sleek form a testament to the marriage of human ingenuity and precursor technology. Steele watched as cables and conduits began to extend from the ship, seeking connection points on the facility's docking structure. His comm chirped again. "Captain, we're ready to begin the power transfer," the Starforge's engineer reported. "But, sir, I must warn you again, the strain on our systems will be extreme. There's a high probability we won't survive this." Steele closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command settle heavily on his shoulders. When he opened them, his gaze was steady and commitment. "Understood. Commence power transfer on my mark." He took a deep breath, his enhanced mind calculating variables and potential outcomes in a fraction of a second. In the distance, he could see the energy wave continuing its relentless advance. Coalition and Gorn ships alike hung motionless in space, their fate resting in his hands. "Mark." The docking bay filled with the hum of immense energies as the Starforge began channeling its power into the precursor facility. Steele felt the deck plates vibrate beneath his feet, the air itself seeming to crackle with potential. As alarms began to blare throughout the Starforge and the precursor installation, Steele knew that the real battle was just beginning. The race against time to contain the defense system's energy wave would push them all to their limits, with the future of the stars hanging in the balance. Balance. As the energy wave continued its relentless advance, Steele felt the deck plates vibrate beneath his feet. The air crackled with potential, the hum of immense energies filling the docking bay. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the entire facility. Warning klaxons blared as the Starforge's power core strained under the immense load. Steele's enhanced senses detected the buildup of energy, a raw force almost unchecked by the ship's systems. "Captain," Chen's voice cut through the chaos, "the Starforge's core is destabilizing. We can't maintain this output for long." Steele's mind raced, calculating their options. "Redirect all non-essential power to the containment field. We need to buy more time." Through the bay's force field, he watched as the energy wave's expansion began to slow. But it wasn't enough. The Starforge groaned, its hull creaking under the strain. "It's working," Lyrax shouted over the din. "But the containment field is still too weak. We need more power." Steele made a split-second decision. "Divert power from life support and artificial gravity. Everything we've got goes into that field." The order was relayed, and the effects were immediate. The air grew thin as life support systems powered down. Steele felt his body lighten as gravity failed, but his focus remained unbroken. For a moment it seemed they might succeed. The energy wave's advance halted, held at bay by the shimmering containment field. But then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, the Starforge's core overloaded. "Evacuate!" Steele roared, pushing off from the deck and propelling himself towards the nearest escape pod. "Everyone out, now!" The facility shuddered as the Starforge's destruction sent shockwaves through its structure. Steele helped crew members into escape pods, his enhanced strength allowing him to launch them clear of the doomed installation. As he sealed himself into the last pod, Steele caught a final glimpse of the precursor facility. The containment field flickered and failed, the energy wave surging forward once more. But in its wake, he saw something unexpected. The wave was dissipating, its power finally spent. The escape pod rocketed away from the facility just as it began to break apart. Steele watched through the small viewport as the Starforge and the precursor installation were consumed in a brilliant flash of light. For several long moments, Steele drifted in the silent void, his mind processing the enormity of what had just transpired. Then, a Coalition rescue vessel appeared, its tractor beam locking onto his pod. As soon as he stepped aboard the rescue ship, Steele snapped back into action. "Status report," he demanded, making his way to the bridge. The ship's captain, a seasoned Altarian named Ziklir, quickly briefed him. "The Gorn fleet is largely disabled, Captain Steele. Only a handful of their outlying ships remain operational. However, our own losses have been significant." Steele nodded grimly, his enhanced mind already formulating a plan. "We need to act fast. Order all capable ships to begin boarding the disabled Gorn vessels. I want every scrap of intelligence we can gather, and I want their high-ranking officers in custody." As the orders were relayed, Steele turned his attention to the wider battle zone. He spotted a familiar ship among the Coalition forces. "Get me Lieutenant Chen," he commanded. Chen's face appeared on the interface, relief evident in her features. "Captain, it's good to see you made it out. We've successfully retrieved Zarlith and her staff. They're safe." "Excellent work, Lieutenant," Steele replied. "I need you to coordinate repair efforts for our damaged ships. Priority is restoring FTL capabilities. We may need to move quickly." As Chen acknowledged the order, long-range sensors lit up with multiple energy signatures. Steele's eyes narrowed as he studied the readouts. "Gorn reinforcements," Ziklir confirmed, his tone grim. "Approaching from the direction of their controlled space." Steele's mind raced, processing the new information and formulating a strategy. He turned to the communications officer. "Get me a direct line to Zarlith. It's time we took the fight to the Gorn." Within moments, Zarlith's face appeared on the main view screen. Despite the recent ordeal, the Coalition leader's eyes blazed with perseverance. Zarlith, Steele began, his voice steady and confident. The Gorn fleet is crippled, but reinforcements are on the way. We have a narrow window of opportunity here, one we can't afford to waste. He outlined his plans swiftly and concisely, a daring strike against key Gorn military installations and supply depots, using the intelligence they were even now gathering from the captured ships. Zarlith listened intently, her expression thoughtful. When Steele finished, she nodded decisively. A bold strategy, Captain Steele. Risky, but with the potential for great reward. You have my support. I'll commit our remaining forces to this offensive. As preparations for the counteroffensive began in earnest, Dr. Lyrax approached Steele, her eyes wide with excitement. Captain, I've made a discovery in the data we retrieved from the precursor facility. There's another installation, potentially larger and more advanced. It could be the key to ending this war decisively. Steele absorbed this new information, weighing the potential risks and rewards. After a moment's consideration, he made his decision. We'll split our forces. I'll lead the main assault on the Gorn targets. Dr. Lyrax, I want you to take a small team and investigate this new precursor site. Be cautious, but thorough. We can't afford to leave any stone unturned. As the Coalition fleet prepared for the jump to FTL, an unexpected transmission came through. A group of Gorn ships, their crews shaken by the display of precursor power, were requesting to defect. Steele eyed the communication warily, but recognized the potential value of their insider knowledge. Accept their offer, he ordered, but keep them under close surveillance. Their information could be crucial to refining our attack plans. With all preparations complete, Steele stood on the bridge of the lead ship, surveying the assembled Coalition fleet. It was a motley assortment of vessels, human, alien, and now even Gorn, united in purpose. All ships prepare for FTL jump, Steele commanded, his voice carrying across the Coalition communication channels. Our target is the Gorn shipyard in Sector 7. Remember, we're not just fighting for victory today, we're fighting for the future of the galaxy. As the fleet engaged their FTL drives, Steele felt the familiar lurch of faster-than-light travel. His enhanced mind was already several steps ahead, planning their approach, anticipating Gorn defenses, and calculating odds of success. The Coalition ships dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Gorn system. Before them loomed their first target, a massive shipyard, its defenses already coming online as alarms blared across the facility. Steele's voice rang out clear and decisive. All ships, battle formations, engage the enemy. Enemy defenses. Steele's voice cut through the tension on the bridge as the Coalition fleet dropped out of FTL. Before them loomed the massive Gorn shipyard, a sprawling complex of interconnected structures and docking bays. Alarms blared across the facility as its defenses came online, but the Coalition's sudden appearance had caught them off guard. All ships execute attack pattern Delta, Steele commanded, his enhanced mind processing tactical data at lightning speed. Focus fire on their outer defense grid. We need to punch through before they can fully mobilize. The Coalition ships surged forward, their weapons blazing. Steele watched as precision strikes from his lead vessels disabled key defensive emplacements, creating gaps in the Gorn's protective screen. Lieutenant Chen, prepare your boarding teams, Steele ordered through the comm. We'll need to capture critical control points within the facility. Understood, Captain, Chen's voice crackled back. My teams are ready and waiting. As the battle intensified, Steele received an urgent transmission from Dr. Lyrax. The scientist's face appeared on a secondary screen, her eyes wide with excitement. Captain, we've arrived at the coordinates of the new precursor installation, she reported. It's incredible. A massive space station hidden within a dense asteroid field. Steele nodded, his attention split between the ongoing assault and this new development. Proceed with caution, Doctor. What's its status? It appears dormant, but... Wait, Lyrax paused, her fingers flying over her console. The station's systems are activating. It's scanning our ships. Steele's brow furrowed. Can you gain access? I'm transmitting the authentication codes we retrieved from the previous facility, Lyrax replied. After a tense moment, she exclaimed, "It worked! We're being granted access to the station." "Excellent work, Doctor," Steele said. "Explore the facility, but stay alert. Report any significant findings immediately." Turning his attention back to the battle, Steele saw that the Coalition forces had breached the shipyard's outer defenses. However, Gorn resistance was intensifying as their defenders rallied. "All ships, press the advantage," Steele commanded. "Lieutenant Chen, deploy your boarding parties. Target reactor control and command centers." Chen's response was swift. "Aye, Captain. Boarding teams launching now." Steele watched as shuttles and assault craft streaked towards the shipyard. On tactical displays, he tracked Chen's team as they fought their way through Gorn-held corridors, pushing towards the main reactor control room. The battle raged on multiple fronts. Coalition ships engaged Gorn vessels trying to launch from the shipyard, while boarding teams clashed with Gorn soldiers in close-quarter combat throughout the facility. "Captain," Chen's voice came through, strained but triumphant. "We've secured the main reactor control room. The shipyard's power systems are now under our control." Steele allowed himself a small smile. "Well done, Lieutenant. Stand by for further instructions." But the tactical situation was rapidly evolving. Long-range sensors lit up with new contacts, Gorn reinforcements arriving from nearby systems. Steele's mind raced, calculating odds and potential strategies. The Coalition forces, while successful in their initial assault, wouldn't be able to hold out against a prolonged engagement with fresh Gorn forces. As he weighed his options, another transmission from Dr. Lyrax grabbed his attention. The scientist's face was flushed with excitement and awe. "Captain, you won't believe what we've found," she said breathlessly. "This station, it's not just a precursor facility. It's a seed ship, capable of terraforming and colonizing entire star systems." Steele's eyes widened at the implications. "What else can you tell me, Doctor?" "We've activated a holographic interface," Lyrax continued. "There's an advanced manufacturing center here, producing technology far beyond our current capabilities. And Captain, we've found weapons, incredibly advanced weapons." This new information crystallized Steele's strategy. "Doctor, I need you to focus on one thing. Search that database for any weapons capable of neutralizing enemy fleets without destruction. Something similar to the defense system we encountered earlier, but more refined." As Lyrax and her team delved deeper into the precursor database, Steele turned his attention back to the battle at hand. The Gorn reinforcements were closing in, and he needed to act fast. "All ships, prepare for emergency withdrawal," Steele ordered. "Lieutenant Chen, initiate reactor overload sequence. We're going to use the shipyard itself as a weapon against the incoming Gorn fleet." Chen's voice came back, tense but controlled. "Understood, Captain. Overload sequence initiated. We're evacuating now." As Coalition forces began their withdrawal from the shipyard, Steele received the transmission he'd been waiting for from Dr. Lyrax. "Captain, we've found it," she exclaimed. "The database contains designs for a device capable of neutralizing entire fleets without destruction. It's exactly what you described, a more refined version of the defense system." Steele's mind raced with the possibilities. "Can you manufacture it?" "Yes, but it will take time," Lyrax replied. "The station's systems are ancient, but they're incredibly advanced. We're bringing the manufacturing center online now." "Do it," Steele commanded. "I'm rerouting part of our fleet to reinforce your position. We need to defend that station at all costs." As Steele issued the new orders, the Gorn shipyard erupted in a massive explosion. The overloaded reactor tore through the facility, engulfing numerous enemy ships in the blast. The Coalition fleet, having pulled back to a safe distance, regrouped and set course for the precursor station. But the respite was short-lived. Long-range sensors detected a massive Gorn battle group on an intercept course, likely alerted by the destruction of the shipyard. Steele's voice rang out across the Coalition fleet. "All ships, prepare for defensive operations. Our objective is to hold the precursor station until the new weapon can be manufactured and deployed. This is the moment that will decide the fate of this war. Stand fast and give no quarter." As the first wave of Coalition ships took up defensive positions around the precursor station, Steele could see the distant flashes of the approaching Gorn armada dropping out of FTL. The final battle was about to begin, with the fate of multiple species hanging in the balance. Steele stood on the bridge of his command ship, his enhanced senses taking in every detail of the unfolding situation. He knew the next few hours would test them all to their limits. But as he watched his forces prepare for the coming storm, he felt a fierce willpower take hold. Whatever the cost, they would hold the line. Whatever the cost, they would hold the precursor station. The distant flashes of the Gorn Armada dropping out of FTL grew into a swarm of warships, their hulls gleaming menacingly in the starlight. Steele's voice rang out across the Coalition fleet. All ships, battle stations, defensive formation Epsilon, prepare to engage. The Coalition vessels spread out in a protective dome around the precursor station, weapons arrays humming to life. The space between the two fleets lit up with a barrage of energy weapons and missiles, marking the start of the battle. Steele's enhanced mind processed the tactical data streaming in from all angles. "Concentrate fire on their lead ships," he commanded. "Don't let them break our line." The hybrid technology of the Coalition ships proved its worth as they held their ground against the numerically superior Gorn fleet. Shields flared and hulls buckled under the onslaught, but Steele's forces gave as good as they got. Inside the precursor station, Dr. Lyrax and her team worked feverishly. The ancient machinery of the manufacturing center thrummed with increasing intensity, fabricating components for the neutralization device at an unprecedented rate. "Status report, Doctor," Steele's voice crackled through the comm. Lyrax wiped sweat from her brow, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "We're pushing the systems to their limits, Captain. Estimated completion time, 47 minutes. Steele's eyes sharp. "Make it 30. We might not have 47. As if to emphasize his point, the station shuddered under the impact of a Gorn barrage that had slipped through the defensive screen. "Lieutenant Chen," Steele called out, "take your strike team and hit their command ships. We need to buy more time." "Aye, Captain," Chen's voice came back, tight with anticipation. "Strike Team Zulu, launching now." A group of sleek, hybrid vessels detached from the main fleet, their stealth systems engaged. They slipped through the chaos of the battle, zeroing in on the Gorn command ships. Steele watched on his tactical display as Chen's team struck with surgical precision. One by one, key Gorn vessels went dark, their command and control systems disabled by the Coalition's advanced weaponry. The Gorn fleet's movements became erratic, their coordinated assault faltering, but their sheer numbers still posed a significant threat. The Gorn warships, realizing the importance of the precursor station, began to concentrate their firepower on breaking through the Coalition's defensive line. "Incoming!" a sensor officer shouted. A massive volley of Gorn missiles streaked towards the Coalition's weakened flank. Steele's mind raced, calculating trajectories and defensive options in microseconds. "Section C, divert all power to shields," he ordered. "Sections A and B, intercept those missiles." The Coalition ships moved with practiced precision, but the Gorn assault was overwhelming. Several Coalition vessels erupted in silent explosions, torn apart by the relentless barrage. Steele gritted his teeth, adjusting the fleet's formation to cover the gaps. "Hold the line," he commanded. "We can't let them reach the station." As the space battle raged, a new threat emerged. Steele's enhanced senses picked up an anomaly in the sensor data. "Scan Sector 7G, he ordered. "Something's not right." The sensor officer's eyes widened. "Captain, Gorn assault shuttles. They've breached the station's outer hull." Steele's mind raced through the implications. "Alert station security, dispatch our Marines to repel boarders, and get me Dr. Lyrax." The scientist's face appeared on the comm screen, her expression tense. "Captain, we've detected the breach. I'm initiating emergency lockdown procedures in the manufacturing sector." "Good," Steele nodded. "Keep working on that device, Doctor. We'll handle the Gorn." He switched channels. "Marine Team Alpha, this is Captain Steele. We have Gorn boarders on the station. Your primary objective is to protect Dr. Lyrax and the manufacturing sector at all costs. Understood?" "Understood, sir," came the crisp reply. "We're moving to engage." The sounds of close-quarters combat echoed through the station's corridors as Coalition Marines clashed with Gorn commandos. The fate of the neutralization device hung in the balance, dependent on the skill and commitment of the station's defenders. Back on the bridge of his command ship, Steele continued to direct the space battle. The Coalition fleet was holding, but just barely. Every passing minute brought them closer to either salvation or defeat. Suddenly, a sensor officer called out, "Captain, new contacts entering the system." Steele's heart raced. Gorn reinforcements could spell doom for the entire operation. But as the data streamed in, his eyes widened in surprise. "Unknown configuration," the officer reported. They're engaging the Gorn." A new fleet of sleek, advanced ships had entered the fray, catching the Gorn in a devastating crossfire. Steele watched in amazement as these unknown allies tore through the Gorn formations with weapon systems beyond anything he had seen before. A communication request flashed on Steele's console. He accepted, and the face of an alien unlike any he had encountered appeared on the screen. "I am Zarkon of the Valorian fleet," the alien said, its voice carrying an odd harmonic quality. "We have been monitoring your conflict from afar, Captain Steele. Your coalition's stand against Gorn aggression has impressed us. We are here to help." Steele nodded, a mix of relief and caution in his voice. "Your assistance is appreciated, Zarkon. Let's coordinate our efforts and end this threat once and for all." With the addition of the Valorian fleet, the tide of battle began to turn. The Gorn forces, caught between three separate fleets and suffering from the disruption of their command structure, began to falter. Steele seized the opportunity, his enhanced mind formulating a new strategy. "All ships, this is Captain Steele. Coordinate with the Valorian fleet. We're going on the offensive. Hit them hard and hit them fast." As the combined forces of the Coalition and Valorians pressed their attack, Steele received an urgent communication from the precursor station. Dr. Lyrax's face appeared, her expression a mix of triumph and concern. "Captain, the neutralization device is nearly complete," she reported, "but the station's power core is becoming unstable. We don't have much time." Steele's mind raced through the implications. They were so close to victory, but it could all be snatched away in an instant. He made his decision. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate the station immediately," he ordered. "Dr. Lyrax, prepare the device for transport. I'm coming in." As Steele prepared to lead a team to extract the neutralization device, alarms blared across the precursor station. The ancient facility had been pushed to its limits, and now it was beginning to break apart. Time was running out. The fate of the entire conflict now hinged on whether Steele and his team could retrieve the device before the station's destruction. As he boarded a shuttle bound for the failing precursor facility, Steele knew that the next few minutes would determine the course of galactic history. As the shuttle rocketed towards the failing precursor station, Steele's enhanced senses picked up every detail of the chaotic battlefield around him. The shuttle weaved through debris and weapons fire, its stealth systems barely keeping it off the Gorn's sensors. Steele's hands flew across the controls, making minute adjustments to their trajectory. As they approached the station, a massive explosion rocked the ancient structure. "We're cutting it close," Steele muttered, pushing the shuttle's engines to their limits. They docked with mere seconds to spare. Steele and his team sprinted through the crumbling corridors, dodging falling debris and sparking conduits. They reached the manufacturing sector to find Dr. Lyrax and her team frantically disconnecting the neutralization device from the station's systems. "It's not fully charged," Lyrax shouted over the din of alarms and creaking metal. "But it's our only shot." Steele nodded, helping to secure the device for transport. "We'll make it work. Now move." The team raced back to the shuttle, the station disintegrating around them. As they cleared the docking bay, the precursor facility erupted in a blinding explosion. The shockwave buffeted the shuttle, sending it tumbling through space. Steele fought with the controls, stabilizing their flight path. As they emerged from the debris field, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. All eyes, Coalition and Gorn alike, turned towards the small vessel carrying their last hope. Inside the shuttle, Steele's team worked feverishly to prepare the neutralization device. Dr. Lyrax's fingers danced across holographic interfaces, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We're live in 30 seconds, she announced. Suddenly, the shuttle rocked violently. Steele's tactical display lit up with warnings. The remaining Gorn ships, sensing the importance of their vessel, had launched a desperate final assault. "Coalition fleet, this is Steele," he barked into the comm. "We need cover fire, now!" The response was immediate. Coalition and Valorian ships moved to intercept, forming a protective barrier around Steele's shuttle. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm as he led a squadron of hybrid fighters in a series of daring maneuvers, drawing Gorn fire away from the shuttle. As the device powered up, Dr. Lyrax's expression turned grim. "Captain, we have a problem. The device's range is limited due to damage sustained during our escape." Steele's mind raced through the options. There was only one choice. "I'm taking us in," he announced. "We need to get to the heart of the Gorn fleet to maximize the device's impact." He turned to his team. "Everyone but Dr. Lyrax, evacuate to the nearest coalition ship. That's an order." As the team prepared to leave, Lyrax spoke up. "I'm staying, Captain. The device's systems are too delicate. You'll need me to manage them." Steele met her determined gaze and nodded. There was no time to argue. The shuttle plunged into a gauntlet of Gorn fire. Steele's enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limits as he wove through the barrage. Coalition ships provided what cover they could, but the shuttle took hit after hit. "We're in position," Steele called out as they reached the center of the Gorn formation. "Now, Doctor!" Lyrax initiated the neutralization sequence. A wave of energy pulsed out from the device, washing over the Gorn ships. One by one, the enemy vessels powered down, their systems completely neutralized. But the victory came at a cost. The immense energy release from the device caused critical damage to the shuttle. Alarms blared as systems failed across the board. "We're losing power," Steele reported, his hands flying across the dead controls. "We won't be able to escape the expanding neutralization field." Lyrax looked up from her console, her eyes meeting Steele's. In that moment, they both understood the gravity of their situation. Steele made a decision. "Redirecting all remaining power to comms and data transfer," he announced. His fingers danced across the interface, initiating a massive data dump to the Coalition fleet. All the information from the precursor station, everything they had learned and discovered, streamed out into space. As the neutralization field engulfed their shuttle, Steele and Dr. Lyrax shared a moment of quiet triumph. They had secured victory for the Coalition, even at the cost of their own lives. The shuttle systems shut down completely, leaving them drifting amidst the now powerless Gorn fleet. Steele's enhanced vision dimmed as the neutralization field affected his implants. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the silhouette of Coalition ships approaching through the debris field. In the aftermath of the battle, specially shielded boarding craft cut through space towards the disabled shuttle. Lieutenant Chen led the rescue operation, his face set with tenacity as they prepared to retrieve their captain and the brilliant scientist who had turned the tide of the war. As the boarding craft latched onto the shuttle's airlock, Chen couldn't help but wonder what new challenges awaited them in the wake of this hard-fought victory. The Gorn threat might be neutralized, but the galaxy was vast and full of unknown dangers. Whatever came next, he knew that humanity and its allies would face it together. The airlock cycled open, and Chen stepped into the darkened shuttle, ready to bring their heroes home.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.